have given a name to my pain. The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill
the Bat of Gotham.
You don't really think you'll win, do you? I'm Batman.
Hello and welcome to episode 133 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows over at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com and follow our Twitter at BatPodNetwork. Also follow and join BOF on Patreon on patreon.com/BatmanOnFilm. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, if you take the time to rate and review the show, we'll read your review on the air. I am Ryan Haas, the host of today's episode, and we will be discussing James Wan's Aquaman in non-spoiler and spoiler varieties. And like I said, we'll have a full panel discussion later on with spoilers and everything, but first I thought we'd do a non-spoiler section for those of you who haven't seen the film yet. And for that, I have here with me the founder and editor-in-chief of Batman on Film himself, Jett Ramey. How are you doing?
Hey now, you haven't heard that on a podcast in a while, have you? So, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's
great.
The holidays are almost here, and the end of the year, and you know, it's last 2 weeks of Batman 20, man. So
I know, make it count.
Yeah, trying to get all of the video stuff that we did. The Pete Vera's interview with Michael Uslan is already up, and it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. So if you're listening, please check that out if you haven't already. And Rick's interview, well, how do I want to put this? Rick interviewing me. That's coming up in different segments. It's not a Bill versus Rick thing. Probably a lot of people would think, but it's pretty good. I've seen it, and it's broken up into sections, and then there's some other video stuff's going to be coming up before the end of the year, and then we're going to move on. I guess what's the next one? 25, Batman 20. That's the next
BOF 25. Yeah,
that's the next anniversary. I guess you celebrate, so it'll be the silver anniversary of Batman on Film. So I plan to be here, hopefully.
It's crazy.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have at least one Batman movie before before that happens.
I did an over and under that on was it Twitter, or I think it was on Twitter.
It was Twitter.
Someone asked me, and I go, that's a good question. And then I made it on Twitter, and then I actually did a poll and posted it on Batman on Film.
What were the results? What did most people think?
Most people thought it would happen before. Yeah. Before 20, what is that? That's 5 years from now, so 23. Before 2023. It's 5 years. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If it doesn't happen by 2023, then that means something happened with Matt Reeves's right. Batman film, and I don't think that's the case. So I expect it. I think 2021 is probably the most likely date. I don't see it happening in 2020. I don't see it. I don't see how they can get it done. And I did write, Ryan, and I don't know if you saw it, but we can just discuss real quickly. So we're going to talk about Aquaman. That the next 6 months, really, up until the end of June, if they're not filming that thing by then, 2020 is completely off the table. Which
right.
I think it is anyway. You've got the Birds of Prey movie, and you got Wonder Woman in that great June summer slot.
That's one and that's smart because they delayed it pretty much primarily just to have a better release date, which is really smart.
Yes. And I can't see them, maybe they would release Batman as a November or December release. I mean, but it's just something about Batman traditionally being a summer release that I think they would probably want to get back to. It's worked well for them,
Yeah.
I may be wrong. I know people say, well, the release dates really don't matter anymore. And that's true, but there is still something to me that's special about a summer release, especially Batman.
It's special, and then there's also, like you said, the question of, like, do they want to do three tentpole movies in DC in a year? And I don't know. It'd be interesting if they did, but
and they may have. I'm not sure. I think I looked. They have like an untitled event movie scheduled for November, December of 2020. But that could be. I mean, that could be anything. It could be
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
3 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, that's really, we're moving on to 2019, and I'm excited for I'm excited for coming up with Shazam here in April and
April, and on the Batman front, I'm super excited about Detective Comics 1000.
Yes,
and Batman 80th anniversary.
Yes, yes. And Batman 89's 30th. So
if Warner Brothers doesn't release like Batman 89 on 4K Blu-ray, I'll be disappointed.
They've got to.
They have to. I would not be shocked if they did all 4, or at least Batman and Batman Returns in 4K. My fingers are really crossed for that. I hope they do that.
I hope that they also give it another theatrical release. I would expect that to happen as well. So I don't know
if they did it this year for Superman's 40th. I hope that they do it next year for Batman 89's 30th.
Yeah, so it's going to be a good year next year. Like you said, Batman 80, Batman 89 30, and Shazam and Detective Comics 1000. A lot of the good stuff we'll be focusing on next year.
Yeah, and that's just on the DC front. Shazam, like the first few months of the year are so jam-packed with comic book type movies. Like you have Glass in January, and you have and that's coming up right before you know it. That's actually probably my most anticipated movie of the whole year, and I'm so excited for that.
That's going to be I kind of forgot about that, but yes, it's coming.
You have Glass, and you have Shazam, Captain Marvel, and Avengers Endgame, like all within the first quarter of the year. It's pretty loaded.
And you got the starting January, you got the final season of Gotham. I'm sure everybody's fired up for.
Oh, that's true.
Which I'm biting the bullet, and I'm going to review the last season of episodes on Batman on Film personally because I thought I might as well do it. Just because it is, but it is part of Batman history, and
it is, and to that end, that's why I have actually stuck with the show as much as I don't like it. There's a group of us that do stuff for BOF that we've all watched. We all don't like it, but we all watch it anyway. So we're probably going to do a Gotham primer podcast at the beginning of the year, so you can get ready to see season 5.
And I cannot confirm or deny that no one else wanted the gig, so I kind of got it by default. So I'll leave it at that.
Oh man, it's been an interesting year. There's been a lot of really good content on the site and everything, and it's one of those like end of the year you start reflecting on things, and I'm thankful for BOF and thankful to be a part of the site, and there's a lot of good stuff going on. So and once the wheelhouse is Batman film. So once a live action Batman film really gets rolling, I mean not just scripting, but really gets rolling, it'll be the same sort of interaction and excitement we had for the Nolan film. So I'm looking forward to that whenever that happens, whether it be 2019 or 20 or whenever. Or 2087.
So yes. Well, if it's then, it'll be someone else running Batman on film because I'll not be here. I don't think I'm gonna live into past 100. All right.
So Aquaman. I mean, it's the first DC film we've had in over a year, which is hard to believe. It seemed like it was so far away. When we saw Justice League, like, oh my gosh, we have to wait over a year to see one more movie. But here we are. I mean,
I think it was a good thing.
I think it was too. I was going to ask, do you think the year gap helped Aquaman in terms of like mainstream perception or your own of what the film is? So.
Well, we'll see. I think the box office will tell us. Domestic box office will tell us more than anything. But I don't view it as anything but a good thing. You can say what the reaction to Justice League was poor, but on the other hand, people didn't go see it for the overall. A lot of the mainstream just didn't go see it. So I don't know how much negative or positive effect Jason Momoa in Justice League as Aquaman would have on this film. But I do think it's a good thing, and I'm hoping that it pans out to be a success, and I hope that's one of the contributing factors that we just didn't. I think it just needed a break after all the drama, after all the BBS Justice League drama that was just everything for what, Ryan, a year plus 18 months or whatever.
Yeah,
it was just, golly,
it just limped. It was like it limped to the finish line, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. And they tried to make a capstone for that whole era of the DC, EU. But to have, Aquaman really kind of does make its own statement. It comes out, it's fun. I think, it's a crowd pleaser. I think the mainstream, and we always talk about the mainstream when we talk about these movies and how important that is in terms of the longevity and the success and the box office and all that stuff. And I think audiences are going to love this movie.
I do too. You can read my review on Batman on Film. I had I wouldn't say if I was like super excited for it, but I like the genre, so I'll go see all of these.
But it's not like Aquaman is like, you're a comic book fan and you're a Batman fan first and foremost, but it's not. It's like an Aquaman movie is going to be your bread and butter or anything like that.
Yeah, unless it was the Brave and the Bold Aquaman,
exactly.
movie, and I love that version of the character. Just because I love that series. But anyway, that's getting off on a tangent. But yeah, I think I do believe that it's going to be. It's a fun movie. It's a fun popcorn, swashbuckling adventure movie. I don't think it's one of the genre's best. But on the other hand, in regards to if that's what you want, if you want a fun popcorn adventure swashbuckling comic book film, it's a good one. So in that subcategory, I would say it's up there. But I think it's just something that you needed a DC film like this,
yes, it's a refresher, like in the best way possible, in my opinion.
And as much as I love Wonder Woman, that movie is overall fairly serious. You know what I mean? It's not
for sure.
It's not I wouldn't categorize Wonder Woman as a popcorn fun adventure film. It's somewhat serious. It's a
superhero movie wrapped in a period piece, in, you know what I mean? Like that's. Yeah, it has a different vibe than Aquaman, which is good because that's why you have different characters and that's why you have different filmmakers that can put their own stamp on it. And Aquaman is a really good template for a big, bold film, and I think that's what Aquaman needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was kind of good that they were able to introduce the character in Justice League a little bit, but it... the way that Justice League was constructed ends up being good for Aquaman the movie because they didn't introduce much. They didn't really show you Atlantis. They didn't really show you anything but Aquaman himself, and that's good because it uses all that gets used to its advantage in Aquaman.
Yeah, the little bit of Atlantis you see in Justice League is nothing. It's nothing compared to the actual film. It's not even. It's almost not even the same thing. So
yeah, exactly. And I've talked to a few people after I saw the movie. Oh, and by the way, like I've only seen it once because we're releasing this episode a little early because I got me and a few other of us that are going to be on a little later. We all saw it on Saturday for the Amazon Prime early screening.
Yeah, I went again.
I saw you went for that too.
Yeah.
So you've seen it twice.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's good. And I'm going to see it. And this is a good non-spoiler thing. I plan to see the movie at least 2 more times. I'm going to see it. Of course, the Prime screening wasn't in IMAX. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it in IMAX because the visuals demand it. To be honest, like I think a lot would be lost if you're not watching it in a theater on the biggest screen you can. And I saw it in the biggest screen my theater had, but it wasn't IMAX. But so I saw it there. I'm going to see it at our local Alamo Draft House on Friday, and then over Christmas I'm going to take my dad and my family to go see it, and we're gonna go to the IMAX in Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, cool.
So cool. Yeah. So I think that's a good endorsement. Like I watched it enough to be like, I want to see it a couple more times.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It reminded me of like 80s action films with movie star action heroes a lot, you know?
Yep. That's why I go to I made a tweet after I saw it. There's a lot of genres that go into that, and I think that 80s Spielbergian type of, there's like, it's like Tron, and then it's like Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings, and there's like a sprinkle of a ton of different films in that, and Star Wars. It's like Star Wars underwater. There's like Avatar. There's a lot of references, and it still makes it its own thing, but it takes a lot of, I'm not going to say well, maybe it would be like film tropes, but it's also like the feeling you get watching those movies. It's more when you watch a movie and you're like, oh, this is a fun time at the movies. That's kind of the vibe that Aquaman gives you, which is great. He's a big, bold character. There's a lot that character had to kind of break through because, Jason Momoa himself is obviously one of the best things that they could have done to instantly make you identify, it breaks your misconceptions of the character pretty quickly. And then you throw a filmmaker like James Wan on it, and then throw a bunch of other good actors around him and put really interesting visuals behind it, then it kind of resets your possible misconceptions. So
yes. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I would be, I just wonder what, like mainstream audiences, like when they think Aquaman, I know, that's only that. But look, if you can get Black Panther to make over $1 billion, and
it's
come on, we're in this day and age of the golden age of comic book movies. So I don't think that's I don't think the silly perception of Aquaman that some may have will prevent.
It's not as big as
of
a factor. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like if it's well done, and a lot of these, your Black Panther and your Aquaman, people are ready, for these movies, and the movies are ready to be good. There's a good marriage of that going on right now if the films are done well. And I've talked to a few people after I saw the film, and I said I felt like there was a pretty brilliant and subtle shift as you watch the film. There's more of an escalation as you go. It kind of eases you into its world, its depiction of Atlantis and stuff. It almost and this isn't a knock on anything on Zack Snyder or anything, but it felt to me like the film takes you, and I think this was the whole point all along. It takes you from Zack Snyder, Justice League, Aquaman, and it turns him into the Aquaman. Yeah. And not in terms of the character and the visuals both. Like, it starts out a little bit more like we saw him in Justice League, and as you go on, like the things that happen in the film, he becomes Aquaman. And I thought that was pretty brilliant, And they even had a couple references. There was 2 really explicit references. This is not I wouldn't say what they are, but there are references in the film to Justice League, or other events that have happened in the past. Yeah. And I thought they were well done. Like, if you care about that stuff, it's there. If you don't, you're not gonna. You won't care.
Even. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They're not trying to. They're not trying to overtly connect it to that. I guess that's the best way. And if you don't, if you don't even know that he was in Justice League, then it just seems part of the movie. I think that's that's how people will interpret it. It's just they won't think anything about it. So
yeah, and I like the fact that the movie kind of it's Aquaman. It's not concerned with telling any other story, but it's an Aquaman movie.
Yeah,
and it plays as if, I've heard some other people say this too. It does play as if they gave James Wan a ton of money and said, you only have one shot to make an Aquaman movie ever in the history of movies. And they put everything in it. Like, you got the big, like when we were talking about the Dark Knight trilogy and everything, that we have questions like, well, if this is going to be complete, what do you have to have? You have to have Catwoman, you have to have the Joker, you have to have this. I think for Aquaman, they nailed the character, and they had Mera, and they had Black Manta and Ocean Master. I think those are like the big bullet points you would want to see in an Aquaman movie. And I thought
absolutely. I mean,
we're all really
yes.
well done.
Ocean Master, Black Manta, and Mera. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's basically Aquaman. It's universe in a nutshell. Yeah,
yeah. And I think it honors the character. There have been, because when a character isn't as explicitly one thing or as universally popular for so many years like Batman, a lot of people know what Batman is. There's a lot of different interpretations. He works in a lot of different interpretations, but he's always got that same kind of core. Aquaman over the years has been reinvented a whole bunch of times and relaunched and things like that. And I think what the movie does is it takes all the good stuff and uses it to its advantage. And you can see parts of Jeff Johns Aquaman, you can see parts of Peter David Aquaman, and it's got its own spin with Momoa and the way, Zack Snyder set him up and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of that, and even, some things of Brave and the Bold Aquaman, there's shades of it in there, I think, in terms of his personality, or, Aquaman's personality. And it takes it and it makes it its own thing. And I think it does a good job at it.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna make the panel rank the movie later on, but I was gonna see what you thought in terms of if you had to rank it. And I know rankings are a little nebulous, but
do I as rank it in terms of the DC movies since Man of Steel?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think it's I would still put Man of Steel and Wonder Woman above it. Wonder Woman at the top, Man of Steel slightly above Aquaman, and then there would be a huge gap from there to like Suicide Squad, and then would be like Justice League, and then BVS. That's just me. But I think there's just a big gap. I think those three, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Man of Steel, are the top of this group of films, in my opinion. Like right now, there's no, I couldn't even fathom where I would put it in terms of comic book films in general.
Oh no,
or even DC, DC live action films. But maybe at some point it will be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to rank the DC films since Man of Steel.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Yes,
but. It does everything. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it does everything that it should have done as a film, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
For what it needed to be.
I had some people thought my review it wasn't negative. It's just, I thought it was okay. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a popcorn movie. I thought that I recommended people to see it. I think the audience will like it. I said it was something that DC on film needs, Warner Brother needs with their DC films, and hey, it's a positive for me. If my review was on Rotten Tomatoes, I would check it was fresh. So, not everything has to be The Dark Knight. There is a place for these fun films, fun comic book films, and you know what? It can't be. And I would say to Warner Brothers, you can't. They all can't be Aquaman either. You have to have. You have to have Logan. You have to have The Dark Knight. You have to.
My gosh, I think that they're going that way because look at next year. We've got Shazam. Yeah. And we have Joker. Yeah. I mean, R-rated auteur Joker movie. Which is really bananas.
Yes.
So I hope that their risks actually are going to start to pay off.
I do too. I do too. Just a quick thought before we finish up. What? I don't think we've talked about. What do you think about the stuff you've seen from Joker that's kind of popped up online?
Oh, man.
There hasn't been. I'd say I haven't seen any spoilers or anything, but I've seen. You've seen a lot of pictures, I guess.
There's been tons of set photos and junk like that, and both from like people that shouldn't be taking them and from people working on the movie. I mean, I'm just like, I'm viewing Joker as like an offshoot trade paper, like graphic novel that they've just given people. It's like a DC Black Label thing is what it feels like to me. Like, okay, it's like an Azzarello Bermejo, like they're just doing their own thing and we'll see how it turns out. But and because it's not connected to anything, I have more leeway with it. Like it's just they're making their own movie, and it's going to be something different. And I'm more than willing to wait and see.
I am super intrigued by it. I just even if it's a train wreck. I mean, maybe it'll be a train wreck, but I'm still at this point super intrigued by it, and I hope it actually, but I hope it's not. I hope it does well, and I hope they do more things like that with DC characters. You know? Yeah,
not necessarily a bunch of Joker sequels or whatever, but more things like Joker. I think is the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Things like Joker with other DC characters. I highly doubt that this thing is set up to be any kind of franchise or anything. And I don't think Joaquin Phoenix would sign up for a film like this as a franchise for himself. Because he's very picky about the roles he takes. So
in comic book films, comic book movies are so ubiquitous right now that I think it's smart to try to make them into different labels like this, because there's enough room for it, and people want the variety, and I think it's going to give them some freedom. So I think it's going to be a good thing, and I think Shazam's going to be huge. I think DC on film in 2019 is going to be really interesting to look at. And I guess my final question about Aquaman to you is, like I said, it makes me want to see. I want to see the film a couple more times. But after you saw Aquaman, did it make you feel as if, you know what, I want to see Aquaman 2? Sure, make another one.
I want to see more. And you know what? It doesn't, like we were talked about earlier, and you brought up was a great point that they kind of threw everything Aquaman in there. Hey, I have no problem with Juan if he comes back taking some liberties and creating some other Aquaman mythology and characters. You know,
sure.
You know, so you don't have to have every movie him battling frickin' Ocean Master or Black Manta. I mean, come up with an original Aquaman villain, you know?
Sure.
Make one that's mostly it could be, a good chunk of it could be on land. I don't know. I'm just throwing out stuff. I'm not saying go that way, but,
there's a lot of different things you could do.
Yeah.
I mean, the ocean is very deep in terms of the lore. I mean, and that's the world building they did in this movie, I thought was really smart. You can just watch the movie if you want, but if you pay attention, they just do all this crazy world building in the background.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of stuff going on that they can mine for future movies, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And Black Manta, I just want to see more of that, because he was and he wasn't in the film as much as some of the other villains, of course, but Black Manta, I think. He's looks so cool. They made him comic book accurate in terms of the visuals.
Yeah.
And they even gave you a pretty brilliant reason why he looks the way he looks. And and they did a lot with what they did.
And it did not. He did not come off looking goofy or silly or anything. I didn't.
Nope.
I thought there was there's a little bit of cheese in this movie, and I think there's some stuff. There was little kind of whatever. Kind of roll your eyes, but. Black Manta wasn't one of those things, and it easily could have been. So, come on, get more stuff, more Aquaman. That's fine.
Yeah, there were plenty of moments in that movie where I'm like, man, I just want them to make 100 more Aquaman movies, because it pulls that magic trick of you're watching a fun movie and it's done really well, and you just want to watch it again and again. I think that's good. I think DC films needs movies like this.
Yeah, and maybe down the line, maybe at a second or third Aquaman film, maybe you get a little bit more serious and do something a little.
Yeah, I think that's the natural thing you could absolutely do. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, it's not like there weren't really high stakes, both personal stakes and earth-shattering, epic stakes. There's a lot of things like that in the film, and I think that they can go in a lot of directions for future ones. And all signs are pointing, like box office wise and stuff. It seems like Aquaman's going to be really successful. So if that's the way it plays out, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually just really do. I mean, it's crazy to think that a little over a year ago, we were saying, man, if Justice League wasn't already in production, or if Aquaman wasn't already in production, they would have never made Aquaman.
Yeah.
And now here we are a year and change later, and it's probably going to end up being one of the most successful films in the DCEU.
I'm glad they started it, because that was a very real possibility if they might have just moved away from that, and I'm glad it filmed when it did, and the product was it was satisfying. So I just hope go see it, have fun at Aquaman.
Yeah, yep. Okay, well I think that's pretty good. Non spoilers, go see it. It's good.
Yes.
So.
I said it in my review. I'll say it here. Yeah, you'll like it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I guess you got anything else to say before we transition?
No, I already mentioned that. Just check out the Batman 20 stuff. This time of year is kind of quiet when it comes to film. There's not much activity as far as there's films being released. Yeah, but they're not actively making a lot of stuff. It's kind of like the break of the year. So that'll probably be that and the comic books and whatever else will be featured on Batman on Film. But check that stuff out, and just follow me on Twitter at Batman on Film, and y'all have fun spoiling the hell out of Aquaman and dissecting it to various degrees. I'll look forward to listening to this whole thing when it comes out and hearing what y'all have to say.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill, and appreciate it. And I guess we'll head into the spoiler discussion.
All right.
Okay, we are now over the spoiler wall of the Batman on Film podcast universe, and we are now going to be talking spoilers with our roundtable panel here, and we have a few good guys here to discuss Aquaman in detail. And so first up, we have Mr. Eric Holzmann. How are you doing?
All right, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yep, I'm good. We also have Mr. Ryan Lauer.
Well, hello, gentlemen. Good evening.
Good,
hello.
Good,
Thanks for having me on.
Good evening and good night. Yes.
It's been a while.
It has. What was the last show you were on?
I think it was the Infinity War.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. I can't think that
too
far
long
back. I just remember the the Gotham by Gaslight stuff, because it's Batman. That was really good stuff. I forgot we did do the Infinity War show. That was good. I'm glad we did that show.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And we also have on the show Mr. Garret Grev. This is your second show, is it not?
Yeah, it's great to be back. I was on one with Eric and Justin. We were talking Titans. We were talking a little bit of Aquaman in that one too. So really excited.
My favorite part of that episode, though, was the discussion y'all had on Death in the Family. Yeah, that was a really good discussion, because a lot of times comics are hard to discuss. It's hard to discuss them in a vacuum. So I thought that was a really good discussion, kind of breaking it down and talking about what that story meant then, what it means now, and what its legacy is. I mean, it was kind of a spur of the moment kind of discussion, but I thought it ended up being pretty enlightening. So if you really want to go back and listen to that episode, that was episode number 129.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So I think we kind of got into it just a little bit. We were talking before, we started rolling about where we thought Titans was going, which kind of Justin had said that, made sense for him to kind of revisit that one. And I was just thinking the same thing, because there was an article that went up for just a little bit about some of the stories in Batman's history that made a big impact, and people had different reactions to it, and that clearly was one of them. So it's kind of fun to get into that through the lens of, hey, some of these story beats look like they might be coming around in something contemporary. So that was fun.
Yeah, and that ties into the Titans show itself too, because we'll probably do a BOF podcast after Titans is done.
We definitely will.
Yeah, and because all I'll say now is that a lot of my thoughts that I had at the beginning of the show are quite a bit different now. So,
the first time we discussed it was with you. We did the podcast with you. Me and Pete did with you. So
yes, yep, and that was episode 128. So it's been interesting to watch that show and see it kind of evolve and see their vision unfold and sometimes what you think something's going to be like either meets your expectations or doesn't meet your expectations or sidesteps them completely. And I think that's kind of what Titans did for me, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that for sure.
Yeah, look for that, guys. Look for that one. That one's coming.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, a lot of good stuff coming in 2019 for this show in particular, I think. So, but yeah, let's talk some Aquaman. Let's talk spoilers. So if anybody, like I said, you're over the spoiler wall, we are going to spoil the heck out of this thing. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled, pause this, watch the movie when you can, come back and have a good time. And
we'll be here waiting.
We'll be here waiting, and so then you'll know, like us, that there were like 3 Legion of Doom post-credit scenes.
Yeah, so many mid-credits. It's crazy.
One for each character. You saw some Cheetah, you saw Black Manta, you saw some Riddler. It was awesome.
Yeah, you really have to wait after the credits for these. Like,
they
intersperse them in
like
between.
3 years after the credits.
Yeah, and then Booster Gold shows up, and it's like, oh, sweet.
Oh, man, Booster Gold. I can't believe that. Because none of that happened. So,
no.
So really, for real.
And the Batman trailer, too. I mean,
wouldn't that have been amazing? That's what the one of the post-credit scenes for Venom was a trailer for Spider-Verse, which I thought was an interesting tactic. But that's neither here nor there, because that's in another universe, Spider-Verse. So let's get into Aquaman for real. First thing I want to ask you guys is, we all know where we all saw it because we've seen it early, and this, if all goes according to plan, this episode will be out before the wide release, which is Friday the 21st, and some people might see it on a Thursday preview show or whatever.
Right.
But we all saw this last Saturday on the 15th with the Amazon Prime early screening stuff, and since Aquaman had such a bonkers release schedule with like the early Amazon Prime stuff and like people seeing it early for either press screening or early screening, and then now there's like the Thursday screenings on the 20th and the Friday screenings on the 21st, and people that saw
it was released overseas.
It was released, yeah, it was released early in China and things like that. So it's just a weird schedule. So so since a lot of people have seen it, I thought it'd be great to kind of get this show out just now. And so if you want to hear non-spoiler stuff, you've got the early part with discussion with Bill, and so now we can just get into it. So, but I did want to ask, like, how was your guys' screening experience? Was the theater into it? You would assume that people that paid to be there for early screening really wanted to be there, and just want to see like what you guys thought. How was your experience?
Yeah, so ours was great. It wasn't the largest theater at the venue that we went to. A lot of the wide release movies were sort of eating up some of the bigger theaters. But it was a nice screen, it was nice seats. It was, a pretty pleasant movie-going experience. But the crowd was definitely the group that was there for the early showing. They were enthusiastic. It was positive. Without getting too far into it, I will say there was definitely some applause at the end, which is I always think is kind of funny to applaud, just moving pictures and not actual performers on a screen. But there were right before, as the lights went down, before the first preview rolled, there was a very vocal young lady up towards the front that said, "Let's just all hope this is better than Justice League."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, which got a collection of
Did
groans.
it get some groans?
Yeah, it got some groans, and it got some laughter, and she liked it so much she said it again. So, it was definitely an enthusiastic crowd.
That's amazing. What did you think, Eric?
Well, I'll tell a little story about what happened. I got there on Saturday, I got to the theater, and I always like getting popcorn. It's just a thing I do to the movies. I always want to get popcorn first.
Oh, that sounds so strange, Eric.
What a weirdo.
Well, some people don't want to pay the price for the popcorn. So
I'll pay the price.
Right? So I get there and I'm like, oh, I'll be plenty of time. I have my seat. I don't need to rush there. Huge mistake. I get there. I couldn't believe how long the line was for concessions. So I was just like, well, screw it. I'm not gonna get popcorn then. I went inside. I got my seat. I sit down, and I'm like, there's a little time. I'll go back. The line might have decreased. Go outside. Still, The line was so long, I'm like, forget this. It's just not meant for me to have popcorn during this movie. So that was a good sign.
Which stinks because the movie is a popcorn movie.
It definitely
You need popcorn, and I'm going to have to bring this in the next screening. You need popcorn, and you absolutely need your Warner Brothers ball cap. I have one, and I wore it to Suicides. Yeah, I wore it. If you scroll back in my Twitter, I wore it for both BVS and Suicide Squad because I have a. This is a super tangent, but I'm a video game developer, and our sound guys in the past, the last game we worked on, Agents of Mayhem, that we worked with Warner Brothers Sound to get some of the audio. So
that's awesome.
We have like a free stuff table at work sometimes, and like all of a sudden it was back in 2016, right when BBS came out. There was like a random Warner Brothers ball cap that says like sound department or something on the back of it, and I totally snagged that because I'm like, oh my god, I finally got a real Warner Brothers ball cap. So I need to remember to wear it to all my Warner Brothers movie screenings.
My memory of that little promo or commercial with Bugs before Batman on VHS is just as vivid as the movie itself. In the Diet Coke commercial, like those are things that are burned into my mind from my childhood that'll be there forever.
We should do a whole podcast on we should do a commentary track because next year this is a tangent. This is an Inception level tangent here, but next year is the 30th anniversary, of Batman 89. We should do a commentary track, but do it to the VHS.
Right, from start to finish.
As the oldest guy here, all of you can just shut up.
How much older? How much older, Eric? Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, just to put you on the spot, man.
Yeah, what's your age, Eric? How old are you?
I'm old enough.
Old enough that it isn't like a distant childhood memory that you're surprised you still have.
I don't care saying. I'm 42. I don't care saying how old I am.
Oh, come on. That's not even
that's
that old.
The answer.
I thought 57.
You're not the eldest statesman of BOF.
No, but
that's
I'm...
True.
Well, I'm not as old as the two faces. So.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, God. Let's not call them that now.
No, I mean,
Romulus and Remus.
They're the
right.
well-known. They're the guys who vlog all the time, so everyone sees them.
Those are big personalities.
Yeah, and I love them both
dearly.
So, I love them both. They're awesome.
Just before we let Lauer talk about what his experience was like, I said, it's with my wife. My buddy was going to come with me, and then he couldn't make it, and I went with my wife, and I said, hey, sweetheart, this is going to be super dorky, but there's going to be, I'm sure there's like a poster or a stand-up, and I would love, to take my picture like real quick in front of it beforehand. And it's such a nerd moment, and my wife is just like, oh, my dorky husband. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And we get there, and there was literally like 3 crowds
of... a line?
Yes, there were people like... I was not the only one that had this original idea, right? So I was like, well, see, come on, that's normal. And she gives me a look like, okay, honey, yeah, super normal. Let's take your picture.
It was a good picture. We've seen it. It's a good shot.
Had my Vikings theme, purple and gold BOF shirt on. Yeah,
you did.
Oh, sweet.
You definitely did. Yes,
yeah. That's great. Yeah, I wore my BOF shirt as well. Yeah,
he was wearing BOF swag.
Yeah,
that's good.
By the way, I just want to bring this up now. I'm really upset that we did not get a swag bag like they did out in California.
Hey, that's
BS. Our friends of the program,
Andy DiGenova from Holy Bag. They got. I'm surprised that you're complaining about the swag bag because they also got the best swag, which is Black Manta himself showed up.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Black Manta himself showed up at the screening.
Wow.
And had a little discussion with them. So that's some awesome. BS.
Yeah, I just never expect anyone to make it up to the frozen tundra to do that, so I wasn't surprised that we had a starless Minnesota showing.
I was in Chicago, and I kind of thought, this is the ArcLight in Chicago. There's a chance. Somebody, right? And
right.
Nothing.
My only slim hope for that is like, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and as some super MCU nerds may know, Peyton Reed, who directed both Ant-Man movies, he's from Raleigh. So in the back of my head, I'm always like, yeah, okay, maybe Peyton Reed will show up to an Ant-Man screening. Yeah. But that's like, and they film movies here sometimes. They actually filmed a good chunk of Iron Man 3 here. But But yeah, that's
What if that would happen at the end of your Aquaman screening? Like, guys, we have a special guest, the director of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Peyton Reed.
Finally, I was waiting on this, and
Down with Love, Peyton Reed.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Bring It On in the theater as well, by the way, which, man, that was something.
So, Ryan.
But yeah, did you get you got your popcorn, though? No, you never did.
I never got my popcorn. But the theater was packed. Which was I was happy to see.
Yep.
And when it ended, people clapped. I mean, it was, people actually really enjoyed the film. And for me, because I've been a big proponent of this film, and I've said it on previous podcasts that I've been on Batman on Film, I really, really liked every trailer I saw. So I was really, really had a lot invested in this, and I was so glad that people loved it as much as I did.
Yeah.
So.
But I'd like to just let Eric know that I did get my popcorn.
It
was extra butter and it was delicious.
Well, and I mean, that's the way
where
you
were
eat
you? Where were you when I needed you?
At the ArcLight.
Eating my own popcorn at the ArcLight.
Yeah, you know what?
But so, like, really quick, my experience, they originally only had one theater, like one showing at 7, and it sold out pretty much like right away. So they added another one at the last second.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to make it into that one.
Well, did you see twice?
No.
Oh.
Well, no, because it was one at 7, one at 7:05. So.
I see.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah. So the second half or the upper half was completely packed, and then a couple people in the front. So it was a mostly full one, but that's because the original theater was full. But what was great is when we walked in, they had a up on the screen Aquaman special screening for Amazon Prime members, as well as an instrumental version of Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On" also playing.
I'm
not
there.
a joke. And I just stopped
amazing.
and I go, "Wait, are you serious? Is this?" And my fiance is with me. She goes, she just smiles like, "Yeah, this is the Titanic song." I'm like, "Sure, why not? Okay, we're in
Makes
this."
sense.
But for that crowd, it was really responsive. It was a fun viewing. It seemed like, I mean, as much as you can expect while watching a movie with people, that it was just enjoyable. A couple claps, but not overdoing it. So yeah, it was a good experience. It was fun.
Cool. Yeah, and so I saw it here at my local Regal theater that is close to my house. I usually see movies either at our IMAX in Cary, or we have a brand new. I think it's less than a year old. We now have an Alamo Draft House here in Raleigh.
Ooh, nice.
So I'm going to definitely be seeing the movie in that Alamo Draft House like this week on Friday, and they have like a Mondo glass and stuff that comes with it. That's Aquaman glass, and of course you can get food there and stuff with signed seats. Like it's great. It's really great. And so I'm going to see it there. And I'm going to see it in IMAX in Knoxville, Tennessee, like over Christmas. I'm going to take my parents and my family to go see it there. But I saw this early screening that I saw it at was at my local Regal. It's like 5 minutes from my house, and and it was in their biggest screen that they had, which was good, and the sound was great, the screen was great, and it was a packed house. Everybody, you could tell, it wanted to be there,
Right.
And it was really responsive, and like you guys said, I also, the movie did get a I don't know if it was a standing ovation, but they did get a big applause at the end as well. So everybody really enjoyed it. It was a good time. I didn't get popcorn, but I didn't want popcorn. Oh. So, but yeah, like it was a good time, and I'm excited to see this film a few more times. So,
was it RPX? Did you see it in RPX?
No, there's no large like crazy format stuff in this theater. It's just like their biggest screen. So.
Yeah, mine was RPX. It wasn't IMAX, but it was RPX. So like the sound moved your chairs and stuff. It was crazy.
Oh yeah. No, we didn't. Yeah, it wasn't that. But you know, it was good. It was a good time. Good way to see the movie. So let's get into the actual movie. So let's talk about just as a whole. And I'll go first and give you guys the floor. So like as a whole, I think it's a fun movie. It's really fun. It's a really good, like when you talk about that was a good time at the movies, you can totally say that about Aquaman. You know, my expectations weren't through the roof or anything. I wasn't like super anticipating it like Eric was, or like some people were, like lifelong Aquaman fans were. But you know, it's been a whole year since we've had a DC movie, and I was excited to cross that Justice League hump and kind of see what they're going to do. And I'm a huge fan of James Wan. I like, all his films. I think he's a great filmmaker. I had a lot of confidence in him making this movie, even through all of the DCEU, trials and tribulations that the other filmmakers and other films have gone through. I was curious to see what James Wan would be able to do. And I was really pleased. I was impressed with the characters. I was impressed with the actors. I was really impressed. I was really blown away by the visuals. Making an Aquaman movie has always been like a pipe dream kind of thing. Like if you said 5 years ago, or if you even said right after Justice League came out, that a year from the time that Justice League comes out, that an Aquaman movie is going to come out, it's going to be made, it's going to be awesome, and it might be the best financially performing film in the entire DC universe, and it probably is going to get a sequel. It just sounds crazy, and I think that's probably what we're going to get. So overall, I really enjoyed it. We'll get into, at the very end of the show, we're going to do like letter grades and the classic Rick Shu rank everything, segment. But
to be
overall,
classic though, right, you have to start wrapping it up, and then someone jumps in and says, real quick, come up with a formulated rank.
By the way, real quick.
There you go. That's
30 minutes late. Yeah, so we'll do that spontaneously at the end of the show to honor Rick Shu. But yeah, I thought Aquaman was a good time. It's what the DCEU needed, I think, and I think audiences are going to love it. So, what do you guys think?
Agree basically with everything you said. I thought overall it was just an extremely ambitious and purely pure escapism in the most complimentary way, because it was just a cliche of saying just strap in and just escape into a movie, but that's just kind of what I got. And I was my expectations were in check for it, because I was looking forward to it, mostly for the fact that I, too, really like James Wan. And I think he's a very confident and innovative atmospheric director. And I really dig whatever he does. So the fact that he was doing it was like, oh, sweet, it's going to be something different. And knowing that the reason that he wanted to do it was because it had never been done before.
Because Aquaman has never been done before, yeah. Yeah,
and so he just really wanted to create a world on his own, and he was able to get that full control. So it's just the one running the show is what got me excited for it. And then just watching the movie, it took me just a little bit to settle in, just because I think I was a little hesitant, because I only go so far with some science fiction, then it kind of loses me. And so I think I didn't know how far this was going to go, but then it just took me just a little while, and then I was good. And I thought the action was it felt nonstop, but not in an exhaustive sort of way.
Not in a bad way, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't and not to piss off anybody, but it's it wasn't a Zack Snyder third act movie. It was very spaced out in action, which just really helped. And it wasn't all above water and then all below. It was a great blend of back and forth, which I think I got halfway through the movie, and I wasn't even thinking about it, and then it hit a certain spot in the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't even been to this part yet. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, we saw this in a trailer, we haven't even been to this part yet. And I thought, so from that aspect, I really dug it. I thought that basically all characters worked for me. I really enjoyed that there was an actual person that was the villain, so there were multiple fights between the hero and the villain, and it wasn't all computer. So I mean, that's just all praise. I don't have anything unique to add on top of that. I was just really, really surprised with it. And I took my fiance, who watches some of this stuff with me, but she's much further from sci-fi stuff and nerdisms than I am. And so I was a little sorry if you don't like this. And she ended up really digging it too. So that's my representation of general audience.
The Momoa factor probably weighed in a little bit. I know it did with my wife.
For me, more than her. I was
that's a dream.
I don't care what your opinion is. That's a man I aspire to be. For you.
Facial hair.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, just great movie.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I had a lot of expectations for this film. A little bit of history into my feelings with Aquaman. I used to be a swimmer. I know if people saw me now, they'd probably laugh at that notion, but I used to be a swimmer. And I used to love the pool so much that I was actually nicknamed Aquaman when I was in high school.
How am I hearing this for the first time?
Were you also nicknamed Shirtless Momoa?
Yeah.
No, that was never nicknamed. I wish. But so I had a lot. I've always liked the character. I've always thought he's been misunderstood. He's always been the butt of jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, the coolest thing that they'd had for him before this was on Entourage when Vincent Chase played Aquaman. Yep. So I mean, he's always been kind of that weird character. People are like, what's he do? He talks to fish. I mean, how fun is that? Whatever. So, and then when I heard way back when they were doing Justice League and they cast Jason Momoa, I'm like, oh, okay. You know, they're giving it a cool factor right away. Cause I mean, this guy is just personifies that word. Like there's not a cooler guy on the planet. So I was like, all right, so they're going in one direction. And then when I saw Justice League, I liked his character in it. I really thought he was one of the stronger points of the film. So I was like, all right, you know, all the things are positive going in this direction. So, and then when Wan was added as the director, I mean, I love all his films, as you guys said. I mean, I'm a huge fan of James Wan. He even made Fast and the Furious good. So, I mean, I really enjoy his movies. So all this positive energy was going towards this direction of this film. And then, okay, it came. So Saturday came, and I was a little like, all right, I hope this is good. All the positive buzz out of China we had heard, and I kept reading Rotten Tomatoes to read reviews. I didn't read the reviews just to see the scores, and I'm like, you know, it's okay. It's hovering around a certain number. So I go in, I sit down. As you said, they had the, you know, thank Amazon Prime members, the pre-screening, all that stuff. And from the very first scene, which literally picks up, well, the very first scene with him in it literally picks up right after Justice League, pretty much. I was kind of like, wow, you know, here we go. It was just a fun ride. It's a immensely fun ride, beautiful visuals, really good performances. I could nitpick here and there about certain things, but I won't. I enjoyed the movie tremendously. So much so that when it ended, I was like, I would watch this again right now if they could show it to me again. So, yeah, for me personally, this was what the DCEU needed, and I'm glad we got this film. I can't wait to see more of this character. It got me more excited for the other movies to come. I wasn't a huge fan of Shazam. Now I want to see Shazam. So, it really reinvigorated me with the whole universe going forward. So...
Yeah, so you guys have all mentioned sort of this affinity for James Wan going in, and I know this probably won't score many points with any listeners that really dig this guy because it seems like everybody does. But I've never had any strong feelings about him. So Eric knows I can be a little bit of a wuss when it comes to the movies and the content that I watch. I'm not a huge horror movie fan. I don't like graphic violence is not my cup of tea. So like the Saw flick was not. I watched it and I was just cringing the entire time. Like, this is so awful. My buddies in college made me watch. I'm like, why are you making me do this? And so like that didn't. You know, I enjoyed the Fast and the Furious movie as much as you sort of enjoy all of them with a big grain of popcorn salt. So I wasn't 100% sure, but I knew that this guy has had a lot of success world building and being able to produce content that people really enjoy, typically with a smaller budget outside that Fast and the Furious movie. So I didn't have the same sort of built-in expectations of what this director could deliver, but I had a lot of confidence that the studio had confidence in him because, anyone that's been following it, the saga of the DC film universe to the level that we have knows that there was some conversation about what level of creative control could happen. And I, too, was very interested to see what this movie would tell us about the direction overall these movies were headed. So the continuity piece for me was nice. It made me smile with the direct reference to the events of Justice League. Not that it needed to be beholden to that movie because it certainly stood on its own, but it was sort of a an almost reassurance that, hey, we're going to right the ship here a little bit for those out there that think it needs to be righted, and this movie is going to be a statement to that. And I mean, man, was it. I had, just as much fun as you guys had from the very beginning to the very end. Seldom did a smile leave my face. I thought, Laura, to your point, having a human antagonist or a Atlantean antagonist, but a person
Aquarian, sure.
like an actor, right? And it's not a cloud of swirling debris,
That's a good point.
But the stakes were there, right? Like we didn't have to go there in the third act to get some really incredible visuals. The special effects I was blown away by. I thought the dynamic between Aquaman, Arthur, and Mera was strong, despite some misgivings I may have had about Amber Heard and some of the work that she's done in the past. But I thought their dynamic was great. So I mentioned that I went with my wife. My wife actually said, I bet a lot of women will dig that. She didn't say it quite like that, but she's like, she wasn't. It wasn't, when you make me watch these things, a lot of times it's always the girl that needs to be saved, or the hero needs to make some big tough decision because he needs to save his love interest. Like she was kind of, she was kind of badass the whole time with him. So I thought that approach hit it just right. And there were some the feel called back to some movies that I really enjoy. So Juan had talked about getting some inspiration from Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark, Romancing the Stone, which I can see that there quite a bit. But we talked about this on the Batman on Film Facebook group. Someone mentioned The Mummy, and I'm like, dude, I'm all in on that because I think Brendan Fraser's The Mummy is a total fun ride, and it's kind of cheesy. But the action's great. It doesn't take itself overly serious, but it has a core of urgency to it, and I think that's what Aquaman did really well. You could have fun with it without it being a groaner or an eye roller, but all of the impact in the stakes were felt, pretty well at all phases. The only thing I would say that walking out of it, I said, what would have made it just a little bit better? I could have used a little bit more interaction between Ocean Master and Aquaman before we got into sort of the end game of their relationship to build on that just a little bit. But when you have a movie that does as much as this does and does it well with the various scene changes and location changes and action beats, I think the balance is probably what it needed to be for the story they wanted to tell.
A lot of times when you have movies where you're trying to have a lot of content in the movie suffers because of it. But I didn't feel that, like you said, I didn't feel like that with this at all. There was never one point where I was like, okay, why did they go there?
Right.
And you never really questioned that at any point.
And I've seen that critique from a couple different sources. It's like, you're gonna find yourself scratching your head as to what's happening in the plot, but you probably won't care because you're having fun. And I tried to go in pretty blind on reviews, but I read a few snippets here and there, and I didn't track with that, man. So like when they went to Sicily, I'm like, yeah, they're going here because of this thing that they saw, and she memorized it. Now this is the place on the map that they're going to, and it makes sense. Now, did it need to be Sicily? Like they probably could have put that just about anywhere. But within the confines of the story, and also knowing that this director wanted to give you like a cool visual, beautiful location that was going to film, wonderfully on screen. Yeah, it worked for me. I wasn't thrown off by that at all.
Yeah, I thought it was complicated enough, but yet really simple to follow too. Like, at no point did I feel like, wait, why the hell are they here? Or what the hell are they even doing here? It was like, and like you just said with Sicily, it's like, yeah, it's where they need to go for this. And then they go here for that. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, because they just said that's what they needed to do.
And it feels like, it's a little bit, it sort of felt, a little bit like you saw the formula at work, but it wasn't in a bad way. The other thing that I said, I talked to my brother about this, and we used to play, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring it up, and I'm forgetting the name of the video game. PS3, it's kind of Indiana Jones. He's a treasure hunter. Man, I shouldn't have to mention this without knowing it.
How embarrassing.
Really bad. Oh, geez.
It's okay.
So, essentially, where you go to this location to do this thing, which leads you to this next location where you do this next thing, and the story progresses because of that, which is just fine, because I thought the story was significantly tight in a way that didn't wander off too far in any direction without being paint by numbers, which was good. And I think starting where they started with Aquaman as an established character, we didn't need to go all the way back and see a true origin story. The snippets we got of the training montage and Arthur as a child were more than sufficient to tell us how he got started without having to do your typical first act superhero origin film, because that's I think audiences are getting a little bit tired of that at this point.
Yeah. We basically, I guess I was a little surprised that we went right into kind of like one of the, I forget if it was the first trailer or what, how that started, of the stormy lighthouse, and then Nicole Kidman was found and everything, and that's how it started. I'm like, oh, we're doing this part right away, and the fact that was almost like a prologue in itself. And then we went from that to Aquaman, and then boom, first action sequence. I was kind of like, I feel like that really helped kick off the pacing, like right away for the movie.
Dude, it's Uncharted. Uncharted was a video game.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Uncharted, of course, yeah.
I could have told you Naughty Dog made it.
I would not have gotten Uncharted from that, but okay.
Yeah,
me neither.
I got a little flavor of Uncharted in there a little bit.
All right, so going back now, we all know how we feel about the film. What were who were your best performances? Let me put it that way. I'll put it out there like that.
I feel like many people in the nerd circles like we are would instantly say Mira, just because it's like she's a fan favorite and people just want to say Mira, but I don't know if I'd want to say Arthur or Mira, because I thoroughly enjoyed both of them, whether they were by themselves or together on screen, every single time. So that would probably be... See, but then I think about Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master. I thought he was great. I really like Patrick Wilson.
Dude,
I thought he was great, though.
100%. I said, I think the use of Patrick Wilson and like what they were able to get out of him and within the world that this story lives was just amazing. I said to my wife as we were walking out, I said, for all the incredible visuals and the awesome fight scenes and the things I never thought I'd see on screen in an Aquaman movie, let alone an Aquaman movie, and the groundbreaking CGI, and it really was groundbreaking. Some of the CGI was just spectacular. Said that the crowning achievement for this movie is that they made me believe there is a world where Patrick Wilson could pose a bodily threat to Jason Momoa. 45-year-old Patrick Wilson, for a while, I was convinced could take out 38-year-old, completely ripped, jacked up Jason Momoa. And I think the performance that they got out of Wilson was understated and strong, but it was believable. Like, it was sort of like, hey, I'm gonna start this war against the surface, but they tied in just enough of sort of contemporary social awareness around what unfortunately happens in the ocean with pollution and the impact of man, and without being overly preachy, which could have lost some of the audience, sadly. And then his performance was not maniacal. It wasn't over the top. We didn't get a Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face performance or anything like that, where he was menacing and serious. And I thought it was really well done. I think he is who I would point to as the performance that I enjoyed the most.
You know what's funny about that is, like, one of my, and I saw this in Bill's review. I don't know if we've talked about that too much, but Bill gave the film I think a B overall.
Yeah, B.
Correct me.
Yeah, B minus.
B minus, because it was closer to a C than a B plus.
Okay, well, I think that was his full thing. But if you guys haven't heard this, but because we recorded it today, but his our discussion today was he's pretty positive on the film. But one thing he said in his review is he thought that Patrick Wilson was maybe a little miscast, and I don't exactly agree, because I think he was, when you watch the film, like, he is Ocean Master. Yeah. If you like or know the character from the comics, he is Ocean Master. That's what the character is. But he does it very well. I thought, like, he had a lot of emotion, like you said. You can kind of believe that he can stand toe to toe with Momoa, if nothing more than just the fact that he's like grown up in that world. He's a little jaded and conceited, but he's an Atlantean and he knows what he's doing, and he's got the trust of the people, and he's got all this stuff behind him. So
I kind of feel like he almost had the most to do in a way, because he had to act like the face of I'm your leader, but then also behind his back in his deal with Black Manta, and then as he was with Arthur, and like when it was just them one-on-one, he was like showing his true colors, but then kind of a little reserved. But then when he started to lose it at the end, where it was just like, no, I just want this. I'll kill you because I need this. I just felt like he had a lot to accomplish, and I think he did it. He did.
Yeah, he's kind of like, this might be a bad comparison, but he's kind of, if you like Lord of the Rings, he's kind of like the Saruman of Aquaman.
Dude, I love it. Great comparison.
In a lot of ways. Yeah. So just because he's kind of a friend, he's kind of a foe, but then he really is a foe.
Yeah,
and then he manipulates a lot of other like secondary characters too, and orchestrates kind of what's going on. So he, in commanding armies and stuff like that. So I kind of got that vibe from him. But one thing that, and this is one of my, it's kind of it's a nitpick for sure. But one of my nitpicks is the fact that they kind of like really fudged with the ages of the characters. Like towards the beginning of the film, they were like, Aquaman's born in like 1985, and I'm like, well, that's bullcrap, because that would mean he's 30, and Jason Momoa's like almost 40.
He's like 38 or 39 or something.
39, I think, yeah. And then Ocean Master is supposed to be his little brother. Patrick Wilson is like 47 or 48. And so
I tell you what, though, you take Patrick Wilson, you do some CGI smoothing on the skin, you add some CGI hair on his head, and he looked like a young man in that movie. So they pulled it off. The wonders of technology.
Yeah, like
we're at work.
It's still a little bit of a leap for me, but he was so good. He embodied Ocean Master so well. It didn't bother me that much.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
The part of the performance that I really like, and I really like that comparison, Saruman and Lord of the Rings, because you saw the different faces or the presentations of the character with. And it wasn't overly done, right? I think there's a world where you could make this movie and really key on that, like, oh, this guy is manipulating and being this way to this person. It was a little bit more subtle. But I think Wilson sort of gave the character some regality without making him overly stiff or haughty. Like, you saw some arrogance, you saw some entitlement, you saw a royal demeanor, but it wasn't cartoonish. You know what I mean? Like, there was some cartoonish stuff in this movie.
It wasn't too over the top, but it was just right.
Just right.
Yeah.
I thought all the performances were pretty solid. I could nitpick about some of Amber Heard's stuff, but I won't. I mean, overall, things I've seen her in before, and things I've seen her, like, and then watching her here, it's kind of just who she is. So whatever, I was fine with.
Yeah.
I was fine with her performance in the film, because I thought that their chemistry was pretty decent. There wasn't really a point where I was kind of like, wow, that really was cringeworthy or anything. I didn't have any of those feelings at all watching the film.
I was super pleased by that, because I mean, not to get into Justice League, but one of the line deliveries in Justice League, and there's a few to pick from that were the most cringeworthy, was when Mira says Amber Heard's delivery of "You dare speak of Queen Atlana that way."
I knew you were going to say that.
And I was like, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, geez, please don't talk like that in the actual Aquaman movie. And then she didn't, thankfully. But I was like, okay, good.
Arthur,
if we would have gone with that,
speak of her that way.
Yeah, it was bad. It was just like, come on.
Yeah.
No,
I thought she was good. I mean, she embodied the character again, like Ocean Master. She embodied the character from the comics really well, and she has a lot to do too. She's like another bridge character between Atlantis and the surface world, specifically for Aquaman to kind of get him.
I mean, and she's very much a central figure in the film. Like she's
right, yeah,
she's right there with Momoa's Aquaman. Like there's no
right,
she doesn't. They're together the entire time.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like again, this film evokes a lot of other movies, like good. Like, and when I say movies, I mean like popcorn movies, or just like movie-going film experience, and I put that in this like nebulous category of like movies that are like Spielberg movies, like Indiana Jones
100%.
or a Tron or a Pirates of the Caribbean,
Star
Wars. It's like Star Wars underwater, Avatar underwater. I mean, it doesn't like just take the tropes from them or whatever, and it doesn't. But it takes that kind of feeling of having a good time at the movies and does its own thing with it. And I think it does it really well. So, I think let's get this thing out of the way right now. Mara's hair. We got to talk about the hair for a second because, dude, this is a hot topic and it's hot red hair. So
it is hot.
She's different. A lot of the characters, all the characters in the film, look a lot more like their comic book counterparts compared to like Justice League, for instance. And they made a decision in this film to where her hair was much more bright, deep red than in Justice League. And in my opinion, it didn't bother me. I thought it worked. I think it was very deliberate because underwater and stuff like that, she looks more comic booky. She looks like the character, like these striking visuals. And I think, and they did it deliberately. I think it seemed to me that they were doing it on purpose because she is she's an Atlantean. She's supposed to look slightly alien. She's supposed to look like she's out of place, like she doesn't belong in the surface world. So when she is in the surface world, she kind of like stands out because her hair's that red. At least that's kind of what I came up with in my head. So
yeah, no, that's the read I got from it too. Like I didn't expect her, I didn't expect any of these characters to look 100% human. I mean, Momoa doesn't look like a dude you'd cross paths with on the street, right?
That guy never looks like human,
right?
Yeah, and no one says anything about that. I mean, I think that's his real hair. I mean, he's got the long rocker, hair anyway. Yeah. But no one has said anything about that.
My man.
Yeah. So Mara having the bright, super red hair didn't bug me. And Ryan, I think like to your point about underwater scenes, I feel like that was intentional because Juan did the same thing with, you sort of got like the really bright purple and green hues, like lighting underwater was a big piece of establishing the atmosphere of Atlantis. It wasn't just, sort of this dark, deep underwater, sort of decrepit, falling apart ancient kingdom. It was this like bright, lively, vibrant community.
When it wanted to be. Because
exactly.
like Lord of the Rings or something like that, there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of world building, and there's a lot of locations in the film, so much to the point where like they have every time there's an establishing shot or a new location, they give you a subtitle that tells you like where you are and what you're doing, which I think I like that kind of feel.
I like it too.
Yeah.
I do.
To be honest. And to me, like, I'm going to have to look this up Easter egg wise, but it felt to me like, is this the same font from like the credits of Batman 89? Maybe it's just because it was yellow or whatever, but it looked really similar to me. And I kind of hope it's the same one, but it's probably like not exactly, but it evoked that to me.
So just I'll finish my thought. Sorry, Eric. And when you're thinking about, again, not to get into Justice League too much, but the
you keep saying
underwater,
it, you keep doing it, Garrett.
We're there. Just accept it. We're there.
Go all in.
The not quite Atlantis, but near Atlantis. Yeah, unite the seven. The near Atlantis underwater stuff in Justice League was dark. It was a little murky. Yeah. So it felt like Juan was saying, like, "Hey, man, like that's cool. You saw this before, but this is the underwater world that Atlantis lives in." And I also think, just real briefly, they brought up that, the way that the eyes worked physically underwater.
I love that.
Was different, right? So we think as humans, and the only reason I get into this is for some reason my 6-year-old is really into the deep sea lately. So before this, we had read a lot of books about animals that live like deep, deep, deep in the sea. And while
anglerfishes and
dude, he is obsessed with anglerfishes. He thinks they're like the coolest animal around. Like, just
make him
because
play Banjo-Tooie. There's an anglerfish boss level.
Oh, for real? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's super good. It's freaked me out as a kid.
well, it's like so the way that
There's a
our
tangent.
human eyes work aren't the way that those characters' eyes work. So you think about within the realm of these characters living in this space, super bright, super vibrant. The way that light works down there would be different for their eyes than it would be for ours. So the world building
And the pressure, like the whole pressure thing. That's why he's like invulnerable.
Right.
But I loved the extra wrinkle they added to be like, oh, but if you're royal blood, you might have like additional abilities or things that the commoners don't have, like only the royal people can be above the water and breathe, air and whatever. And I thought that was really clever. It solves a lot of storytelling, problems for them too.
And it opens up the door for why some of the Atlanteans, when they're on solid ground on the land, need the aqua suits, right? With the water helmets,
masks,
because it looks so cool. But if you just did that without the piece of like, this is a different world with different people and different abilities and different physiology, it's a throwaway and it's a plot hole. But with just a couple little bits of world building that may have been direct, dialogue, but also just sort of establishing that this is a different world that plays by different rules because it's located under the sea for all these years. It gets that other stuff. It ties into the logic a little bit more. It doesn't make you leap as far to get rid of your disbelief.
Well, because it also gives you the out of like, well, this is why we've never seen them before. This is why they're reclusive, and this is why they like keep to themselves. And in addition to like the way that Atlantis is set up to stay underwater, or our kingdoms don't want to invade the surface world, until now, right?
Oh, the meta-human theory?
Yeah.
That's why her hair is so red.
Right.
We're going to full circle now. There we go. We're going back.
Dude, that was a long
hair.
tangent to get back to the wig. Sorry.
I knew it would be.
I did not care at all. To be honest with you, I didn't. That at one point did I say, "Wow, her hair's really red." I'm like, "Okay, she has red hair. Keep it moving." That was it.
Gotta love him.
Right?
It was
Exactly.
fun.
I was just like, "All right, she has red hair."
That
That part was a little creepy though. Like when they just jump out of the plane and then they just crash
And boom, right into the sand.
and they're fine.
Yeah, sure,
Like
why not?
nothing's wrong with them.
Like now
There's
we're
just the pressure thing.
Yeah,
Like, they can
they're
withstand
strong.
it.
I know, but it
Well,
was
hold
like
on. Aquaman was jumping out of planes and helicarriers and bullcrap in Justice League all the time.
landing on
lifted
top
up
of
a
airplanes.
but Cyborg helped him.
True.
Only after he jumping out and
And the other
Batman
time we
helped.
saw him surfing on a parademon,
Yeah.
which
And
was
he didn't
awesome,
care?
by the way. That's one of the scenes I do
Yeah.
like in that movie.
The only thing related to the hair that I would say is I would have liked Dolph Lundgren as King Nearest to have. He kind of had pinkish hair. I would have liked
man.
his hair to match.
Yeah,
just
I
for
thought that they
consistency.
did put the effort in to make it,
Right.
red blonde or whatever.
But he was older. Maybe he was
How
graying.
great of an end of year is he having?
Dude.
I know.
Creed 2 and
So
then
I started when he showed up in the movie. I started to laugh, and I turned to my fiance and I was like, "We paid to watch a movie where there's a bunch of men riding seahorses, and one of those guys is Dolph Lundgren.
Now, one of those guys is He-Man.
That's where we're at, and I'm in. I'm digging it. Why the hell not? Ugh.
Yeah. Yep.
It was great.
I thought he was good. And for the other supporting characters, I mean, we all have to talk about Rick Shue's favorite actor, Willem Dafoe,
yes.
Jeremy Lyons?
or Jeremy
Jeff-
Lyons, as he's more common. Jeffrey Lyons, as he's
Jeffrey
more
Lyons,
commonly known.
Yeah.
But hey, I
So good.
like Willem Dafoe, and I thought he was really good in this film.
I did
especially,
too.
And he had an important role to play. I was always wondering, and I think this was deliberate. I was always like, okay, whose side is he really on?
Oh, dude!
Like,
if you weren't going to
know.
say it, I wanted to get into it, and I was going to ask if you guys thought that was a deliberate part of the filmmaking process, or is it just that Willem Dafoe always comes off a little creepy? Like, which
I
one
think
is
it's
it?
both, and that's
creepy.
you don't cast Willem Dafoe as that character unless you're going to do something like what they did with him.
Right.
You know?
Yep. That's true. I think that's a perfect way to put it. You don't cast him unless you're doing what James Wan did with him. And I thought he was fine. Like I thought he was really good. He was believable, which is what you want. Like I didn't.
And they did do a good job with there is a lot of digital de-aging and stuff in this
Yeah.
movie because
yeah.
they do the back and forth and the flashbacks and stuff like that. I don't know how they digitally de-aged Jason Momoa into that little baby, but that was really super good.
Yeah. They're really coming. The technology is growing so much. My wife did say, so we've already established we're talking spoilers, but when Queen Atlanta makes her return late in the movie, she leans over and says, "I knew it. You don't cast Nicole Kidman and de-age her if you're never going to see,
to re-age her." Yeah, exactly.
And then she goes, "Wait a minute. She looks like 6 years older than she did before, they maybe carved 6 years off her." I'm like, yeah, Nicole Kidman, she's had some good work done. Good for her,
Well, her scenes were kick ass. Like, they really were.
They made her, again, the fight scenes and the choreography, they made her such a badass. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah. Can we talk about... Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
No, I was just going to say, the switch from like the very tender, mother with child, pregnant mother with partner to mother with child to just straight up badass taking people out was, I thought, a really cool shift from like sort of this romanticized beginning to the story to, nope, here's the action. Like we've established that. Now it is full bore, sweet, choreography, good fight scenes, and away we are.
So awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And I thought her interaction with all the other characters was fun, and I liked that they gave a pretty more than I thought to Aquaman's father.
Django
to Morrison, Django Fett / slash Abin Sur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's got some cred.
He does. I thought he did good, and I mean, again, he gives this like grounded, believable, warmth to the surface world, and seeing him interact with Jason Momoa's Aquaman, it was fun, and they even put those extra things in, like they gave him some of the same tattoos.
Yeah,
so
I noticed
so
that.
There's some subtle world building there too. So
cool.
I thought he was pretty cool.
Well, he's in my favorite scene. He's in my favorite scene of
the bar scene.
So.
What, the bar?
Selfies?
Yeah.
Yes, that was
great, and that's one of those like quasi fourth wall breaking things that like actually works. I could see this happening in a comic book, to be honest.
Right.
Too.
Totally.
Yeah. It was pretty great, and that's the scene where like Jason Momoa, the person and his personality kind of shines through too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have this weird like empathetic thing when I watch movies. It's like all right, I want this movie to be good. I want it to be well received. I want the actors that are involved to not come off dorky or cheesy. And when that part hit, I'm like, how is this audience reading this sort of goofball intercut to the scene?
Was yours responsive?
They loved it.
Yeah, ours did too.
Ours loved it, and I really thought, okay, this could be the piece that falls flat. But no, everybody really enjoyed it. That the feel in the theater was super positive about it, and I was like, okay, well, pulled it off. This got it. And I think that's the kind of thing where this movie has, especially with the preview audience, some built-in goodwill. Outside of the girl that said, "Just let it be," better than Justice League. But like with the charisma of Momoa, you can get away with doing some of that stuff that might be just a little bit over the top early in the film, and I think the audience will still ride with it.
He's on his way now. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, I think so.
He is on his way.
I think so for sure.
Some of the smallest things that they had him do, that I think one was like good to win him over for the audience, but then also for like the DC movies and what they need. And it reminded me with Wonder Woman was like small heroic moments in the fact of like right at the beginning in the submarine, how he said to who would soon to be Black Manta, he's like, "You killed innocent people, like save yourself."
I know,
dude.
That moment, that is like the moment in Batman '89 where Batman just gives this look to Jack Napier like before he lets him go.
Yeah.
These two are destined to meet again, and that's like the point of no return, kind of thing.
Dude,
I thought that was pretty great.
For me, that was like Batman Begins. Like I don't have to. I don't have to kill you. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. But I was like, oh wow.
So then they just insert really quick of him grabbing the one sailor or guy and putting his arm around him and taking him up, and then in Italy, the bell that's flying, and he jumps in the bell, knocks it over, and grabs the kid to save the kid.
I love
it's like
that moment.
It's like
and that was not. Yeah,
I was gonna say it's like 5-second things, but it's like that. I feel like that's really needed, because it's like these are comic book movies, but they're superhero movies. So show them being a superhero.
I thought that moment, yeah, exactly. That's all what it was about, and that moment was less of like a. It did not come across as it did in this movie as it does in some other movies where it's more like we have to have an obligatory guy say, there's no civilians here, or well, at least nobody got hurt. It was like more of the show, don't tell kind of.
Exactly.
Like, it was show this instead of like just having somebody say it.
Mm-hmm.
Where they actually, it did not feel unnatural to have those moments, and it actually strengthened him as a hero because he jumped in, he started saving people while being beat to hell.
It's like they drew attention to it by not drawing attention to it, which is a weird sentence, but that's just kind of how I view it.
No, it makes sense.
Yes, absolutely, I like it.
Makes sense. I mean, while we're talking about it, like I guess if we set enough about Momoa here, I mean he carries the film. He does well. I mean,
oh yeah,
he. Justice League is a good lead-in, but it's not necessary, and thank goodness, because not enough people saw that movie like in a theater or whatever. So, but they have him do a lot. He embodies he's this crazy amalgamation of like Jason Momoa and Zack Snyder casting him as Arthur Curry and their own unique take on the character, but also they take a lot of the best parts of Aquaman from the comics or cartoons or things like Batman Brave and the Bold, and they kind of mesh it all together and use it to its own advantage in this film. And I thought the performance was really good. I mean, he's a character that's hard on the outside and soft and on the inside kind of thing, right? Like, and I think there's a lot of heart to the character, and I thought that I thought it comes across as kind of a really fun performance to me.
Yeah, no.
Which is interesting because like most of the roles he's been in, like the like in Game of Thrones and stuff like that, or Conan, he's like this very like the fun-loving part isn't there. It's more of the just badass and hard-ass kind of thing.
He's ever been asked to do as much as he did for here, so for me that was kind of my hesitancy too, because I like the guy. Like I've seen him in interviews and stuff, and I really like him, but I'm like, you've never had to really carry a big movie like this, so I hope you nail it, and I felt like he did.
Yep.
Well, the cool thing, I mean, the one scene in Justice League where he's sitting on the lasso and he's just having
that was great.
Moment. But that's what I mean. But that, like, if anyone saw that was the first time you would have seen, okay, he really does have this other side.
Mm-hmm.
There's another side to this guy, and he can do that. He can be endearing. So it's kind of sad that people didn't see that. Enough people didn't see that movie to see that. But in this movie too, like the scenes with his father, you have that. It's just he's more well-rounded than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. I don't know that a lot of people are going to come out of this movie and be like, "Oh man, Momoa's got the acting chops. I didn't even know it." But I think that again, to his charisma and his ability to be both warm and super gruff, and Juan's ability and the screenwriter's ability to play to his strengths made the performance. Like I think if you give Momoa a different set of tasks to accomplish, I don't know that he would have been as successful. But in the realm of this movie, with the range that they needed this character to show, he was far more than adequate. I think he did a very very nice job.
Yes, and when we talk about superhero movies like this, the word execution comes up a lot, not in terms of how the filmmaking is executed and whether it was successful or not. And I think that this is a movie, and Momoa's performance, especially, is a movie that has a vision, is executed well, and I think that's why it holds up as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and I don't think you can say that about all of the DCEU movies, and I think that's why Aquaman will end up being one of the better ones because of that. It knows what it is and it executes it pretty well.
100%, man. That's the criticism,
and that makes a huge difference.
Totally, and it's the criticism that I've seen kind of lobbed at this movie that I disagree with the most. There have been a few reviewers that have said it's a movie that is fun but doesn't really know what it wants to be. And I disagree entirely. I think this movie knows exactly.
I think my response would be like, what do you want this movie to be?
Exactly.
Like, what did you expect this movie would be? This is a movie that, like, and I said this to Bill too, like I've heard other people say this, but this is a movie where somebody was given a bunch of money and said that make a Aquaman movie like it's the only Aquaman movie that'll ever be made in the history of movies, and they throw everything in, and they do it really well.
Yeah. Oh, they absolutely did, because you look at the beats that are in this movie. This could be, and it won't be, just the success it's had internationally and the buzz that it has now. It will not be the only Aquaman movie, but it certainly could be, because you have some of the best stuff from John's run. And Ryan, you went into all the different pieces that they pulled from, but you get the trench, you get the Ocean Master, War to the Surface. Like, you get some of the stuff that's iconic to the storylines that have been told. And it fits together. It's not this Frankenstein thing where they tried to do too much and it failed. They did a lot.
Or like Green Lantern, I think is probably a good comparison in terms of like, well, we need like this villain and we need all these Green Lanterns and we need this thing to happen. But it's kind of a jumbled narrative that kind of doesn't hold up as a cohesive thing. And it doesn't play like a greatest hits in Aquaman either. It makes sense.
And unlike Green Lantern, it wasn't afraid to commit to what it was. Yeah. So the biggest problem with Green Lantern is you sold us on this idea of a space police force, going through the entire galaxy, and this, interstellar protection and conflict, but you didn't give us that. You gave us Ryan Reynolds on Earth for the majority of the movie, and Juan was very, very smart to say no. The world that this character comes from is underwater, so we're going to spend time there, and it's going to be tricky, and we're going to have to figure out how people talk, and we're going to do that by just having them talk, and we're going to establish this world and let them live in it, and that had a great result.
I feel like it was I just feel there's going to be a sequel, but if they never have one, it's like we wouldn't be left unresolved. It did feel like he knows what this is Aquaman. We need to put this stuff in an Aquaman movie. It's a story, period. We're not, this isn't the first episode of a 10-episode run or something like that. I was really pleased with...
Or building into another movie like a Justice League 2.
Exactly. Yeah. It just seemed complete. And I'm like, after this is probably going to be successful. And look what they did with Wonder Woman, where that was pretty much bookended and being its own story. It's just kind of like, it's obvious the response of these characters. It just really works for them to have just their own solo movies and don't just leave it open at the end. Close it.
Right. Well, I mean, they do leave it open, but the thing is with the mid-credit scene, which spoilers, is Black Manta focused.
We need to get
but
to
that's
him.
The thing. Yeah, we'll get to him next or last, I guess. But that's the thing. The only thing that Aquaman is concerned about in terms of world building or sequel setup or whatever, the only thing it's concerned about is Aquaman 2, which I think is super smart because that's how you should do these things. Yeah. Because they're going to stand on their own. I think Warner Brothers is going to end up seeing that, like, oh, we did a Justice League movie and it, made less than $700 million worldwide. We made an Aquaman movie about just Aquaman and it made a whole lot of money.
It's probably going to clear $1 billion. Probably.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's going to be close.
It could underperform domestically and it'd still have a shot based on what you're seeing internationally come in.
It's kind of crazy to think that it might very well end up being the highest grossing DCEU film.
And it's kind of throwing it back in the face, right, of the studio, like we just said. Just throwing it back in the face, saying that, solo movies first work. Yeah. If we started this way, maybe we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. So I'm just glad that it's doing well and most of the people that I've spoken to have enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad to talk with you guys about it because I desperately wanted to, I got out of the theater and was texting my buddies that I knew saw it right away because I was so excited to talk about this movie and I can't wait for it to open up wide. So, I've got, I said my buddy that ended up not being able to come is kind of my general audience, token guy that I gauge his response.
Soundboard.
He's a little bit more into superhero movies than a true general audience. I've got another buddy that is just straight up more, GA all the way. And I really can't wait to see their read. So after the opening this upcoming weekend, there's 3 big things that I'm looking forward to. One's the cinema score, because I predict it'll be high. I think it's probably going to be an A-. The second is the breakdown of age and male to female. I think this movie's going to skew more female than traditionally we've seen with a lot of superhero movies, and certainly outside of Wonder Woman in the DC EU. And the third piece is I also think that there's a very good chance that the marketing sways to go after that female viewer just a little bit more than maybe we would have expected with, kind of heavy metal rock star, Momoa in the lead, because of how they did portray Mira, and also the the shirtless Momoa factor. So I really think this thing could play really well and have some good legs. He don't even need a costume. His body's the costume. Well, man, talk about that costume.
It is in a way.
Did the theater have a response when you saw the classic Aquaman costume for the first time?
Oh my god!
Because there was a little mini eruption of applause and some
I couldn't fight back the audience response from the tears in my eyes because they really, I mean, I'm serious about that. They really built up to that moment, and we're kind of all over the place at this point. So story wise, this movie basically takes you from, and this is not a knock, this was deliberate also, by the way. They took you from Zack Snyder pre-Aquaman to the Aquaman, and that's not just the character, that's like the film in general. The film opens up, and it's like you said, we talked about this before the show or during the show, I can't remember at this point, but it plays like a sequel to Justice League in terms of tone and visuals.
Yeah.
And it ramps up in such a effortless looking way in terms of introducing you slowly to Atlantis and the visuals ramping up and making each character kind of transform into their comic book self. And that goes for all 3 main characters, Aquaman, Mera, and Ocean Master. They get more comic booky as the movie goes on. And because they tied Arthur Curry's character progression into him becoming Aquaman, to becoming the King of Atlantis, so to have him retrieve this, to retrieve his trident in a very Pirates of the Caribbean type fashion, to get this trident, you have to do all these steps and beat this, Kraken monster that sounds like Julie Andrews and all that. I know, that's why it was amazing. It was amazing,
and that's how you get to the classic costume.
Yeah, so that's how you get to the classic costume. Because seeing the trailers, I'm like, they it's coming. You're like, okay, this is the sequence that's going to end in this, because they show up with the spot with the waterfall and he's hopping over the rocks. I'm like, okay, when he comes back, he's going to be Aquaman, but it was pretty great. And as soon as he grabs the trident, and it's almost like Dark Souls for any of you video game players. That's the second game reference in this thing. You get this relic from this old king, and his armor just kind of fades away, and I'm like, oh, it looks like Aquaman armor. It's gonna be so good.
And they didn't need to. It was nice. It was kind of fan service in the nicest way, because rewatching Justice League, Aquaman's costume was pretty sweet. I mean, it looked cool. The design was good.
The colors were
kind of there,
accurate, kind of.
Yeah.
It could have served its purpose. He could have just been that. But the fact that they
went there was great.
That they went there and they made it seem effortless, and it still fits within the world and stuff like that. I think that's really brilliant. And so when he came out of that waterfall, and had the trident, had the costume, he was Aquaman. Our theater was just oh my god, they were so excited.
Ryan, not to give the listeners a peek behind the scenes, but you've had to step away a couple times with dad duty, and
Yes.
one of the times that you did, I said, I got kind of a flavor of the feel of the movie that was just like this video game, and I couldn't think of what video game I was trying to talk about. I'm like, if only Ryan was here, he might be able to get this. Did you get an Uncharted feel from this at all? Because I felt like some Uncharted vibes.
I have yet to play any of the Uncharted games,
dude.
but which many people have told me, like, you're dumb, you need to play them and stuff like that. And I actually, in true Ryan Haas fashion, I own all of them.
I was going to say, I bet you own them.
Play them. Yeah. I do. They're sealed, but I need to play them.
I did that with Skyrim. I bought Skyrim and I never played it.
I've done that with the Last of Us.
So. Yep, I need to play Last of Us 2. I'm like a fringe Naughty Dog fan just because I'm like, I know I will be a fan of these products, but I have yet to find the time to play them, and they're excellent.
That probably also speaks to the dad duty.
It does.
I know my video game time went really down the tubes as we've added each additional child to the family.
Hard. Yeah, it's really difficult, but yeah, I've seen my fair share of Uncharted formula as well, and that's the thing. It's like Uncharted, Indiana Jones, like it's the same kind of swashbuckling kind of deal.
I also felt elements of Black Panther, especially the early scene
with the world building kind of stuff.
Yes, like when they first go into Wakanda is kind of similar to when you first see him going to Atlantis. When they get there, like those first couple scenes I had a thought of that. I had thought of the Phantom Menace because the scene underwater where Jar Jar takes them to the core and
the planet core,
right? Things like that. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, wow. I don't know if Juan is doing this, pulling elements from that, but I kind of
pulled elements from everything. Like he's just like, this would be all right.
Yeah. Yeah, that
was a good one.
He
said
he really is.
He's really influenced by. I read some interview, and he's genre filmmakers, and he said he really just wants to hit like everything with Aquaman. He wanted to go in like in every genre. He didn't really want to stick to it being one type of movie.
Dude, the visuals around going into the trench were intense. That was
oh my god.
Yeah.
He really got to flex the horror movie chops there. That was powerful.
Incredible.
And that's one of those things too where I'm like, I just want more of this, like because they build it up, they talk about the trench, and if you've read the comics, you kind of know what's coming. But it was quick, and I'm like, it's one of those like 10 or 15 things in the movie where I'm like, they've set this up just enough to where I want a lot more of this in another movie, which is great because there were plenty of moments in this movie where I was like, I hope they make 100 more Aquaman movies just like this because I'd watch them all.
Speaking of setting up to play more with in later movies, Black Manta. Yes.
Oh my god.
So I thought he was in it the perfect amount. And I don't know if that was something I'd read with one. I spend too much time on the internet. He said that Black Manta doesn't fit the story they wanted to tell in being the main villain. But he's like, it's an Aquaman movie. We have to have Black Manta in it. And I thought it completely made sense. I thought how much he was in it made sense. And then, of course, the tease factor, leaving it open of like, we will get more of him in the future and probably more of him. And I'm like, I just thought that was perfect. Yeah. And I loved his suit. Oh my god. I loved his suit.
I know. Yeah, this might be controversial, but Black Manta is like what Boba Fett wishes he was.
No, I see that, man. I see that.
And especially in the way that he's like in this movie. I thought I was very impressed, and that's basically how they open the movie.
Yeah.
With after the early origin stuff, the first major scene you get with Aquaman is this Black Manta origin, and you get to see that happen and see the interaction with. I mean, it's really smart though with the dialogue and what they do with the screen time and like establishing who Black Manta is or will be, and his father, and like their sea pirates and all that kind of stuff. And they went with like the comic book type origin of it and stuff like that. And so yeah, like I thought he was in it the perfect amount. And when you start to think about how much he is in it, he's in it a decent amount.
Yeah.
Especially considering he's not like the main villain or whatever. And I thought it was really clever how they gradually build to him becoming the Black Manta. All these little pieces fall into place of like, you know, you've got this dagger. They called me Mana. And him working with the Atlanteans, with Ocean Master, and getting the armor, but then like making it his own.
I didn't like
another Batman Begins moment where he's spray painting black.
I didn't like the damn montage music. I did not like it. I thought it was a weird transition music, which is what I thought. There were 2 other times in the movie, I can't remember them, where I thought
Africa.
Yes,
Pitbull's
Africa was one.
I loved it,
and then something else kind of took me out.
Because they established, you know why I liked it, or why it was okay? Because they establish that it's playing on the radio in the plane.
Yeah, that's always a nice touch.
So I thought that was good.
I still wish it would have been the Weezer version, but
I do too. But you know, Warner Brothers got to sell them records.
Oh sure.
So they had to put a new version.
That's the truth, right there.
Yes,
that's the truth.
It's BOF, spitting the truth. Coming
you know,
that's what the F in BOF stands for. Or something. I don't know.
You know, I could have maybe done. I agree. I think he was in there just the right amount. It's hard to do an Aquaman movie without Black Manta. My wife, and I'll just speak because she is like not even general audience. She never goes to movies, but she went to this one because of Momoa and his shirtlessness. But somehow I have to shave.
You showed us the text message. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, I saw. She goes. Yeah, no, bring me. Have you seen Aquaman? And I said, okay,
heart emoji.
Okay, but heart emoji. I said, okay, but I can't grow a beard and have to get regular haircuts. How's that work? You know. She said at the end when it was the mid-credit scene, she goes, see, I thought that guy would be like the big bad guy at the end. Like it felt like he should have been the villain. And I said, really? She goes, well, no, you know, not with the story, but just the way, you know, you start with him, kind of thought you'd end with him. I'm like, well, you know, I guarantee you see more of Black Manta. Like, if you want more Black Manta, sweetheart, we'll go see more Black Manta in 2 to 3 years. Like, that's a guarantee. But, you know, I think having something there that gets the audience or might, you know, build the audience desire to come back for a sequel without making it the entire film, like we said, building to a sequel was very smart. Like, keep it contained to the story you want to tell and leave some loose thread out there that you can revisit, but not make the audience feel like they don't have closure at the end of this movie.
Yeah, and that is like a comic book thing. Like, Black Manta is always this like underdog-ish type character that is really intense and he keeps coming back kind of thing. And he's going to work with whoever he needs to work with to take down Aquaman. And I think that they did a really good job establishing like that's the character, you know, almost like Seinfeld. That's the character. We're not going to change it kind of thing. And I loved how, you know, again, this is like a comic book nitpick, not a nitpick, but just like in Batman Begins where they like explain everything, explain the suit. Like, I loved that they took the time to explain why the helmet is that size and why the eyes are so far apart. Yep. It made perfect sense, and it didn't look goofy. Like, it looked comic book accurate and still looked badass, and it was great.
I don't know.
Don't be afraid of the costume.
I don't know what I'd do with that action figure, but I want it. I want it now.
You would set it up and struggle to make it stand up on its own and adjust all the points of articulation until you found just the right sorts of balance to compensate for that giant head.
Whew. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and performance-wise, I thought that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II did a really great job. Yeah. You know, I haven't seen him in much, but he did great in this. I mean, he had the intensity, you know, that Black Manta needs. But again, just like Ocean Master, he didn't go so far with it. It's intense, it's epic, it's on this grand scale, but it's not like mwahaha super villain kind of thing. Like, he did just the perfect amount.
They stayed away from the mustache twirling.
Exactly.
And I think it worked out just fine.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so again, like, all the characters I think we're good. Does anybody else have any like other major story points they want to get into, or do you just want to get into overall final thoughts like that and final thoughts on the film?
The only thing I'll say is I'll be very interested to see if they revisit in a sequel just how Nereus plays in. So sort of at the end, like, well, he's got the trident, that's your king, but clearly there was a point of view difference in sort of the driving motivations for the characters were not aligned. So I think any uneasiness or friction could be really rich and really cool to dig into in future installments of the franchise. So I'll look forward to that.
And that's a big thing in the comics too, is like,
oh yeah,
because Aquaman is this like in between two worlds, a lot he's either on the throne or getting kicked off the throne like every other arc or whatever in the comics. Like it's a thing that happens a lot. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's definitely a route they could take. Well, is
kind of like Thor.
Exactly, and they can definitely go that route, because I think there's a lot more Atlantis they can explore. There's a lot more lore. There's a lot more of that kind of stuff.
Unless I've missed something too, I think I'm interested in seeing. Though she wasn't like the top of like my favorites in the movie, and that's nothing negative, but Nicole Kidman's role as Atlanta, now back at Atlantis after everybody thought she'd been killed for 20 years. It's like, what's that?
Yeah.
King,
well,
queen,
what are the
ranking sort of deal?
What are the rules of succession?
Right.
The laws of primogeniture.
Yeah.
Or does she stay with his father?
Oh yeah.
Oh snap.
That was really sweet.
Well, and
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too is Ocean Master doesn't get killed. Yep. They don't kill the villain. So, and in the comics, he turns into almost like a back and forth kind of thing. Like, well, now he's the villain, or now he's forced to work with them, or it's an uneasy alliance or uneasy truce. Like I could totally see in a sequel, Black Manta coming up, and Ocean Master having to work with Aquaman or something like that to take him down. And there's all kinds of stuff that they could do.
Again, credit to Patrick Wilson on that last scene of when he saw Atlanta, because it's very much like, okay, is he more back to Orm, or is he still kind of an Ocean Master mentality now? Because it just really seemed like now it was like to me, I took out of it like a questioning himself once he saw her, because he's like, oh, you're actually alive. Well, what am I doing? And to explore that, if they want to, is an option.
Is he going to be like, I hate to go back to Thor again, but he's going to be like Loki.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
Is he going to have that kind of a role? We'll see.
I wouldn't mind it.
No, I wouldn't either. I would not.
One last thought I had around, like, you sort of look for, and I think a lot of us going into this, we're looking for, did the studio learn any lessons from previous endeavors, or are they just, to Bill's term, doubling down? And I think there could be a world where they made this movie and Randall Park's character, Dr. Stephen Shin, at the end with Black Manta, there's a world where they filmed this movie and Lex Luthor, like it was Jesse Eisenberg in there doing that to get Manta up and going and to be a member of the Legion of Doom.
Oh, sure.
But, clearly they didn't go that route. I haven't heard anything that they considered going that route or anything like that.
Oh, you didn't stay to the end credits.
Oh, yeah, the third with the whole Legion of Doom.
After the Batman trailer, there was the Legion of Doom.
Yes.
Manganiello shows up as Deathstroke.
Dude. Yeah.
But it kind of felt like that could have been, if they were going to force this, if they were going to shoehorn it in and not just kind of say, all right, let's focus on individual characters and tell their stories, and then, who knows what happens in the future. Like, they could have swapped that out. I thought it was smart to keep it contained.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, because they a big deal online was made when they cast that doctor character, because people were like, oh, because his part was a reshoot or whatever, or additional photography. People were like, oh, what's it going to be? Oh, there's problems with the movie. Are they going to reshoot stuff? And what's that? And so I was, I forgot about it completely. And then he was just like in the movie for like 2 scenes or something. I was like, oh, I thought he was going to be a bigger deal than this.
Right.
Yeah, so many fans are punch drunk. Anytime you see the word new character reshoot, they're like, what? They just freak out.
Reshoots.
Yeah. Like every movie does them, but God forbid it's a comic book movie that does it. Just freak out immediately. I actually didn't. There was nothing else I wanted from this film. And And mostly because I thought there's so much content in it to begin with. Like, there's a lot to absorb. Like, it's the world building, it's the character development, you have 2 real villains, and all the other creatures that are in it that are technically villains, and like there's just so much going on that I don't think you could have put anything else that would have hurt the film. So for me personally, it was fine the way it was. Of course I want to now see what they do, because I'm convinced it's going to make enough money to greenlight a sequel. So
yeah, I am too. By the way, I'm on record. Like, yeah, they got to make a sequel.
Yeah,
hopefully it happens.
Oh, I think it will.
And I hope James Wan does it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
Oh man,
but I hope he does.
And he's not signed for the sequel, so he's going to come back and get a Patty Jenkins payday.
Exactly. I think that's what's going to happen. The same thing.
Well, James Wan could already kind of get whatever movie he wanted before Aquaman, and now I think he really will. So
right. I wonder what he'll do for his career. Will he branch out and do different kind of films now, or get offered different kind of films?
Well, he's doing a lot. I mean, he's producing the Swamp Thing show on DC Universe. Like, he's doing a lot. So it seems like he's interested in keeping his foot in the water in DC stuff.
I see what you did there.
I did. I wasn't even thinking about the water reference, but it's a good one.
It was. It worked.
So, but yeah, I guess the last 2 points I'd like to make was just like, broke down the story and the characters, but the score, I really liked the score. Like, I've heard some differing opinions from other people, like, but I liked it. Like, yeah, pretty much just you, but I liked the score. I thought it was good. They did like it was like Tron-esque when you were in Atlantis, and I thought that was on purpose because it's like a different world. It's like this sci-fi, like, off-kilter thing, but and you had nice heroic themes for the characters and things like that. And just in general, the visuals, I do think that this film is somewhat of a game changer in terms of visuals because of how much they actually did have to do and establish and make you believe that, like, Atlantis was real. I mean, Atlantis, the underwater world, it's another character, just like, in Avatar, they had to build that whole world. In Gotham City, in Batman movies, it's a character. They made that world believable. They did enough world building visually too, like, to make it work. And the action scenes, the underwater action scenes, the grand epic scale of things. Again, this isn't like, to go back to Green Lantern, it's like space turd in space for the last 10 minutes of the movie. It's not like that. They realized the whole world, Atlantis is this giant thing, and there's a lot of variety in it, and the way that they approached it, they use a lot of influences and stuff, but it's really, really something. And I think that I think it's great. I think they did a great job with the visuals.
And the water skiing on the dolphins was great.
And Easter egg wise, I do think it's kind of outrageous that Aquaman doesn't say outrageous.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Just
me. I was waiting the whole time, like, where is it? Is he going to drop it? When's it coming?
I know we got a booyah in Justice League from Cyborg. We could have gotten we could have gotten a outrageous, at least one. I can't imagine him saying it though. Like,
of course he can.
No, I don't know. Like, for me, like, my man, all right. Those are things I picture Momoa saying, but outrageous? I don't know.
You guys didn't hear it when they were in the orca's mouth. The orca said it.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome, by the way. I love that part.
The Pinocchio thing, like, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. It was. Like, it was great.
The neon pinks.
And eating roses.
Yeah.
They ate roses. That was funny. That was a funny thing. See, I would take that over Tom Hardy eating lobsters, because that's just dumb.
That was kind of like Splash, right?
Yeah, it was like the Tom Hanks. Yeah,
Splash.
Yeah, when she bites into the lobster claw. I thought the same thing.
Oh man, see, it was fun though. Like, that's what I mean. To me, this movie had something for everyone.
It does.
Right?
It does. If you watch this movie and there's not something in it that you laughed at or enjoyed or had some sort of feeling of like, oh, I'm having a good time at the movies with this, then you're just You're a sad, strange little person. So
we're not calling anyone out either, by the way.
No. I'm just saying, like, the movie. There's something in this movie for everybody, and I think that's great. And when you're talking about like the mainstream and how general audiences will take this movie, I think it's going to be. I really hope people enjoy it and see it multiple times, like we all probably will.
Yeah, my nephews want to see it, so I'm planning on seeing it again with them.
Yeah, so my buddies, from the other show that, they knew I was going to that, my college football bros were like, hey, so how was that Aquaman movie? Was it good? I'm like, dude, I loved it. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I'll see it again. You guys should check it out. And the next thing they asked was, can we bring the kids? I said, I think so. I think so.
Know, right?
I said there's a scary scene. They'll see it as some creepy looking underwater monsters. But
oh yeah, Garret, were you okay with the trench stuff?
Yeah, man,
right?
I was good. It was creepy, but I was fine.
Because your wife texted me and said you kind of bruised her arm.
Yeah, probably. I believe it. It was creepy. It definitely did what it was trying to establish. But like, I could show this to my 6-year-old. I wouldn't have a problem with it. There was the violence was not incredibly graphic.
You don't have to cut a special version just to show your kids.
Yeah, there is.
No,
I didn't need a Kowalski buttless cut for this one.
5 minutes.
Yeah, like I kept seeing things like when before I saw the movie, because the early releases, you see things like, oh, it's a family film. It's a family film. That's one of the things that was in my mind when I was watching it. I'm like, is it really a family film? But it is. Like you could.
I think
you can bring your kids.
I think if you got
you can't not bring your kids.
A mature 6-year-old, an 8-year-old certainly. But that's why I think this thing will play. I think it's going to find a really broad audience. Some of the romantic themes at the beginning and end of the movie will work for certain segments of the audience. I think you could see more parents that are a little bit more discerning or protective, like I am, bring kids to this one. And I'm excited to see what it does. I've got it ranked really high in my overall DC movies, and
me too.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah. So I guess that'll kind of wrap up the show. Oh, but you know what? There's one more thing we should do. We're real quick, Rick Shoe style. Like you guys were saying.
Wait, one more thing.
Yeah. So you guys say something, then I'll interrupt you, and then we'll do this thing like we already, we're planning it. We can talk about Aquaman some more. We might need to do some sort of follow-up show or listener question type show or something like that. So feel free to like tweet at us. You'll get our Twitter handles towards the end of the show. And we might come back and do
that'd be a fun
like
one.
Like a
if
Q&A
we could get
type
enough
show.
people to send questions and just
send questions in, maybe that would be fun.
That'd be fun.
Because we'll probably we could do that after the new year real quick or something like that, and we'll probably have seen it more than once by then. Our opinions might be a little bit more solidified. See, our opinions might hold water a little bit more. That was a water pun.
You're doing a really nice job with
You're
them.
killing it today. You are really killing it today.
Yeah. I'm just
especially for just after 1 a.m. Eastern time, man. This is really strong work from you.
I do my best work, and BOF.
I can attest. I've been on some after darks with Ryan and.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully just a couple more viewings, and the osmosis will we'll become one with the film. But yeah, real quick, and when I say that, I don't really mean that. Give Aquaman a letter grade, and then rank the film amongst the rest of the DCU films, and I'll let you guys choose whether you want to rank from the bottom up or from the top to the bottom.
Who's going first?
I'll gladly go first. For reasons that I don't think I've said really anything negative about it. I did not like the Julie Andrews massive crab. I'll say that's one thing that I just did not. And how dare me speak against royalty of Julie Andrews, but I just didn't give a damn about that thing, and I was But aside from that, there's not really anything that really bothered me with the movie. For all the good reasons that we've said, I agree with all of them. I think it's a really strong B+. If we're doing letters, right? B+.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you are putting a B on it, I guess you do need a BOF level modifier on it. Like,
is it a flimsy B?
Is
it
a strong B?
Is it closer to a C than a B?
B+, that's much closer to an A- than just a B.
B+.
It's a my man B+.
All right.
And then you want me to do the ranking of the
what's the rank?
Okay, I'll start from the bottom up because the bottom is so easy in that piece of shit Suicide Squad. I cannot stand that movie.
Okay, keep going.
Number 4. So these are, for me, it's what I watch. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, but it's the ones I thoroughly enjoy the most.
Right, and that's important when you're ranking anything because we all rank stuff.
Yeah, so these are what I watch the most. I will watch Suicide Squad, so that's 5th. 4th is Justice League. 3rd, it's Wonder Woman. 2nd, man.
there's 5 movies here.
What? Oh,
6.
Aquaman. Shit.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
completely
ranking
forgetting
Aquaman.
all about Aquaman.
Oh my
There's
goodness!
six. There's 6
So
movies.
here we go.
Write it
There's
down if you
6
need
movies. Okay, 6 Suicide Squad, 5 Justice League, 4 Wonder Woman, 3 Aquaman, 2 Man of Steel, 1 BVS.
Oh,
I
bold.
borderline love BVS. That's why
Yeah,
Pete
whatever.
Vera is my. You shut your face. Pete Vera will
Vera,
back
your
me.
spirit
He
animal.
is, and I am his. We are in this together. So
I
There
take
you
on
go.
all comers.
bring it on.
I'll take on everyone.
And like I said, that does not mean, because I think we almost all of us agree that the best movie out of all of them is Wonder Woman as a movie. It's just the ones I watch the
Yes.
most and enjoy the most.
but your ranking, you still have BBS number
I
1.
do.
Right, he
Yeah,
watches.
I
them.
watch
Your
Okay.
your
So
fun
that's your ranking.
rewatchability.
That's the way you're
scale.
ranking this. Okay,
And I'll shut up now.
good.
Garrett, go ahead, man.
All right, so I've got it at A-. The minus comes in for just a couple of the things that I think the transitions from a couple of scenes were a little bit rushed. I'm glad the theater liked it. The selfie scene wasn't as strong for me. That doesn't automatically drop it down. But I think an A- overall, some of the musical cues pulled me out just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's an A- for me, and I will rank them. I'll go similar to Lauer. So this is my rank of where I feel like fun wise and rewatchability for me where this lines. All right, so at the bottom is Suicide Squad. Lauer, I'm sorry. Right after that is BVS.
That's fine. I'm not offended.
Then I
You have
go.
Suicide Squad last.
Yes,
We're good.
So that's
We're
yeah,
good.
we're the same team. So Suicide Squad, BVS, Justice League, Man of Steel, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman at the top.
All right.
Real quick, if I wanted to go into just from a film quality standpoint, I think Justice League and Suicide Squad are tied, even though I enjoy Justice League more. Then it's BVS, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and I think from a quality standpoint, Man of Steel is the best we've gotten so far.
Nice.
It's not as rewatchable for me, but I think it is a finer film.
Well done.
Very well thought out there. I like that. About you, Eric?
All right. Well, I'm gonna give the movie an A for Aquaman. It's a solid A for me.
A for all right.
An
I,
Aquaman.
Right? No, it does. There are a few things I can nitpick, of course.
Yeah.
I have some
Like the
problems.
score.
Yeah, I didn't love the score. Number one, there are times I was just kind of like, where are they going? I don't know why they're doing this music. It doesn't make any sense, but okay, that was a choice they made. I have some issues with Amber Heard, some of her performance at certain points. But
I just like the way that you say that. I have some issues with Amber Heard.
well, I was trying to,
Out of context. I like it out of context.
I was trying to, go along with her line in Justice League, trying to massage it that way. But, but overall, like I said, I was anticipating this film. It hit most of the marks for me. So it's definitely a solid A for me. My list, starting from the bottom, would be Justice League, even though I do enjoy it. It's probably my least favorite.
Surprised to hear that from you, considering how much you do like rewatching it.
And then BVS would be next. I like Suicide Squad. Then Man of Steel, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman round out my top 6.
All right. So, cool.
Yes.
Cool ranking. I like it. Okay, so that leaves me. So I, like Eric, will also give Aquaman an A. A for achievement, A for Aquaman, and A for aqueous. And Aqua, yeah. So I give it an A. I think primarily because I've said this on the show before earlier. Aquaman is an A because it knows what kind of movie it is, and it executes on that pretty flawlessly. Even if it's like cheesy at times or whatever, like it knows it is, and it does a good job at it, and it's consistent. And I think that goes a long way in my book, in terms of how I assess a film's quality. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's an A. And if I had to rank it, starting from the bottom, and number 6 is Justice League, 5 is Suicide Squad, 4 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, 3 Man of Steel, 2 Aquaman, and 1 Wonder Woman. So that is my ranking.
Bravo.
It is crazy that the top 3 are all the solo films, like the one for all of us.
Like, and for all of I was going to say, for all of us, aren't they the top 3 for all of us in some form or fashion, except for Lauer.
Oh, except for Lauer, yeah.
BVS was his top.
Whatever that means.
You know what? Our first
Lauer,
and last
are you
podcast together, Eric.
Lauer, are you an Ultimate Edition guy, or is the theatrical version enough?
I haven't watched the theatrical version since.
I haven't heard one person say, "Oh, I love the theatrical version of BVS so much better."
And that doesn't mean
I haven't heard one
I do
person
think
say that.
the Ultimate Edition has unnecessary stuff in it, but overall, as the movie as a whole, I think it just works better. And I don't care the runtime of a movie if it's a better movie. I don't care.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
yes.
There's some things they trimmed off Lex's dialogue that I think were completely unnecessary and probably good cuts. The rambling neurotic Lex is not my Lex, although that doesn't matter. They weren't telling my Lex story. But I do think some of there's probably a good 2 minutes of neurotic Lex ramblings before and after kind of the what we got in the theatrical version.
He was Lex in front of the court.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I didn't need as much of that.
Man.
So they could have done without that. That would have made the
Ding, ding,
Ultimate Edition even better for me.
Well, that was a little mini BVS chat there, because we haven't talked about
No,
that
you
movie
can't.
enough.
Right.
Well,
it hasn't been dissected.
So let's.
I was enjoying. I was enjoying a
guys.
couple. I was enjoying a couple beverages while I rewatched Justice League or BVS: Dawn of Justice to get ready for Aquaman, and I unwisely started a little
That was
thread
hysterical
on Twitter,
like,
and I immediately
I'm gonna have to read this
I
thread.
immediately regretted
delete it?
No, it's still up.
I woke up to that. I'm like, what
Oh
the
my gosh.
heck?
I need to look this up.
I will say this. Rewatching it now, after some time away from watching it, I came at it with a different set of eyes and a little bit different of a perspective, and I appreciated it more.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it it didn't raise its rewatchability factor for me, and I still have some issues with the character choices, but I appreciated the story that it was telling, and I think the degree that it pulled that particular story off, even if I don't love that story. That's the
BVS.
yeah,
yes.
that's the compressed version of that.
Yeah. I haven't real fast. I haven't seen BVS in quite a while. I've been trying to intentionally give myself a good chunk of space, because my feelings on the film are pretty solid. They're no longer flimsy. My feelings are flimsy, but my grade is. So I haven't really watched it in full in quite a while, probably about over a year. So I do want to watch it again sometime soon, because I've finally got the 4K version of it and all that kind of junk, and I think I'd like to just see how it gels again, because it has really. I rag on it and stuff like that, but there are some great moments in BVS that I really do appreciate. Even things that people don't like or talk about, like controversial things. Like my two favorite Batman things, or two of my favorite Batman things in the movie is like the Martha. I love the Martha moment, and I love the intro with Bruce Wayne having kid Bruce Wayne having the dream and floating up, in the cave. Like, I love that, like, so much. But there's a lot of things like that in the film, and there's a lot of things I don't.
That's why it's number one out of these for me, is because of the Batman elements. Like, there's so much of it that I really like. Granted, they're not
just because it's the only like Batman movie in this list doesn't just automatically shoot it to the top for me, though.
It's a Batman movie.
Yeah.
It is a Batman movie.
Yeah, but just by default doesn't mean
just because it's not a Superman movie.
Well, Superman has 43 lines, so it's a Batman movie. Yeah. I mean, what are we?
I'm just saying, like, just because it's quote it's Batman doesn't mean like, oh, it has to go to the top of my list.
Oh no,
I think that's why it does for me, is because how much of that works for me, and it's like, hey, you can watch any of them. I'm like,
and that makes sense. Like, if that, if that interpretation is like really worked for you or really like resonated with you, like, that totally makes sense. And any ranking, any list, any ranking,
it's all subjective.
Like, it's all subjective. It's your personal feeling on it, and that's good. And that's what makes BOF interesting, is because there's a lot of voices,
a lot of opinions,
and a lot of opinions, and it's good that we have a show like this, like the BOF podcast, where we can actually talk them out in a constructive, like, non-confrontational, but if it is confrontational, it's only in love type of manner.
Of course.
But to be clear, The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time. I don't know how a Batman movie will ever top that for me.
Dude,
I hope someone does. Like, somebody should.
I welcome the challenge. I'd love to have a new favorite Batman movie, but we'll see.
But it is the greatest of all time in many ways.
Well, you have, Ledger's performance alone.
Yeah.
Like, that elevates it to a level that, really all the performances, except, like I said, except for Christian Bale. I'm not going to do this again.
Come on.
But to me,
for Eric's sake,
his performance in that movie is weak, but it's bolstered by everyone else. Like, everyone else is great. Like, I have no issues with anyone else's performance. Like I said, he's okay. He's just okay.
Tisk tisk.
We should get into Rises now.
No. I'll be out of this in a straitjacket. Just be like, no more Rises talk.
Oh boy, yeah. No, we don't need to go there again.
Yeah. Just be like, hey Ryan, when are we recording again? When's the next show? Let me know. I'm trying to make sure I have time on my calendar. And he's like, oh no, you're not recording again. And I said, why? Because we got into Rises. Like, it just we'll keep this amicable. I'm just kidding. I do enjoy Rises.
I enjoy it too. It
doesn't sound like it, Eric. It does not.
It's just the Back to the Future 3 of the Nolan trilogy. That's all.
You're right.
AKA it's the best one.
You're right.
Oh, Jesus. I love that you love it.
I do feel, we did our big Dark Knight Rises 5-year anniversary shows, and I think the big discussion one that we did, I thought that that's, to me, that's kind of like the be all end all of Rises discussions, because we laid everything out.
It was good.
We explained it. We really had the pros and the cons, and this is why it works for me, and this is why it doesn't work for me. And I always refer back to that. I think that's a good episode for people that either have PTSD, either way with Dark Knight Rises, to go listen to. So
Rises derangement syndrome.
Throw that out there. Yeah. But which way?
Yeah, which way? The mania has a whole spectrum.
Yeah. So I guess that is a weird way to wrap up an Aquaman discussion episode, but
it is Batman on film, so we always.
But it is Batman on film. It is Batman on film.
We have to get Batman.
And there's so much Batman coming.
Yes.
Oh boy!
Like next year. That's the thing. This is going to end up being a pretty long show, but that's good, because it is very likely going to be the last BOF podcast of 2018. So, I mean, it's the end of BOF's 20th anniversary. Next year we have lots of great stuff coming up. We have Detective Comics 1000. We have the 80th anniversary of Batman. We have the 30th anniversary of Batman 89. I mean, so there's lots of fun content.
The series finale of Gotham.
The series.
Oh, yeah, don't leave it out.
Thank goodness, finale of Gotham. And we will be covering it pretty extensively here.
Yes, we will.
You know, Bill Jett Ramey himself is going to review the episodes.
What? Wow.
Right
from
website.
the top.
Yes.
And BOF's old enough to buy a beer, and you're going to need a few of them to get through the Gotham.
Yeah. I'm personally very much looking forward to Bill's reviews.
Is he going to binge the whole series?
No, he's just going to pick up in season 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was going to make it even better.
Be awesome.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
You know, so if we do, we're planning on doing a Gotham primer BOF podcast. So like, if you like a recap of seasons 1 through 4. So if you don't want to binge those, or if you have binged those and want discussion on it, we'll kind of cover seasons 1 through 4, so you can jump into season 5 with either a big grin or a crazy grin or a big frown on your face, and watch it that way. And so we're gonna do that. And Eric, you guys are gonna do even more Gotham discussion. Like, it's kind of crazy that we're talking this much Gotham, but hey, we'll see how that goes. We're gonna do like a Titans show now that show's almost over. We're gonna cover that, and we got a Killing Joke show to do.
Next year when Titans comes back next year, I might do a weekly thing. I'm thinking about that.
That's crazy to think. I haven't been thinking about Titans. Does Titans literally come back next year too? Like, they're just doing season 2?
Well, it was greenlit.
I know it's confirmed. I know it was greenlit, but I don't know when it would premiere. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good question. I don't know.
So,
if it does,
I didn't know if they were going to skip a year to do it or whatever. But yeah, there's so much content coming out, and that's not even to say like the first stuff we'll start to hear about. You know, Matt Reeves' Batman movie in earnest,
right?
And
the Joker anticipation.
Joker's coming out, and Birds of Prey. We'll start getting more and more Birds of Prey.
We'll do Shazam. We'll have Shazam stuff.
Shazam, yeah.
In April.
And there's so much Marvel too. Like, I know we're DC, but we get Avengers Endgame. We might as well do an Avengers Endgame podcast. That'll be here before you know it. So lots of good content coming. So be awesome and stick around and listen for it. So let's wrap this show up. Let's do some plugs, and I guess let's start with Mr. Lauer. Plug away.
You can follow me on Twitter at Lauer_Ryan. Lauer spelled like lower. Then if you want, in 10 years, you can pull up some of my old tweets and get me in trouble. On the site, I review.
He said BVS was number 1.
He did.
Get
Can't run
him
for president. Yeah, I reviewed Doomsday Clock, Catwoman, this Black Label Batman Damned, which is beautiful, but what the hell's going on? I don't get it. But I mean, the book, the art looks great, and then these new line of Batman novels that have come out. There's 2. One's The Killing Joke, and the other one's Mad Love.
Is Mad Love out yet?
Yeah, it is.
Have you read it?
Got a review on there. It is exceptionally better than The Killing Joke. Yeah, so I've got both of those up there too. So, I've gotten to write. Actually, the last month I've gotten to write quite a bit for the site, and yeah, there you go. I write.
Nice. Yeah, and your stuff's
Thank
good.
You.
It's great.
You.
Yes. That's something BOF needs is some of those extra things like those novels and things. Those are easy to like overlook, but I think they're kind of an important pillar, and it's cool to see DC doing more interesting things in the publishing realm too. Like, they're hitting it from a lot of different angles, so it's cool that
Well, and they were interesting too when it was announced, because it was, hey, novelization of comic book stories. And so reading The Killing Joke, it was kind of like, our initial question is why, and The Killing Joke made you say why. And then when I finished Mad Love, it was like, oh, this is why. Meaning one was really good, The other one was not.
Right.
So yeah, have fun reading that, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, I've got it, so I'm going to read it. Faux show. Can't be any worse than the animated film. So. The first 30 minutes of the animated film, by the way.
So gross.
All right.
Well, okay.
Yep,
we'll
I'll
see.
put up.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, Mr. Garret Grev, plug away.
Yeah, so I'm reviewing 3 books for the website. If you would like to see what I think about Justice League or Teen Titans, here's a hint on Teen Titans. It's not very good at all. Go ahead and check those out. I also have been reviewing the miniseries Injustice versus Masters of the Universe, which I love and I highly recommend to everyone to pick it up. I think the storytelling is fantastic. The art from Freddie Williams II is just gorgeous, man. He has such a unique artistic style for comic books. He, I think, is a great new voice.
Did you pick up his Batman Ninja Turtles stuff?
No, so I wish I would have. I didn't. I need to grab the trade because of how much I'm enjoying this. I picked up, so they did a split. They did sort of like a Batman Adventures and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was for a little bit for the kids. And they're right around the same time. I picked that one up because I read that to my older boys. And I need to go back and check out the other one. But that's fantastic. I would highly recommend checking that out. You can follow me on Twitter at Garret. That's Garret, just one T, Garret WATO, where I tweet a lot about Batman and Superman and He-Man, because I'm a big Masters of the Universe fan, and a lot of fantasy football. So the WATO stands for What Are the Odds? And if you like fantasy football, you could check out the What Are the Odds fantasy football show and website. We started that this year with my 2 best buds from college, and we talk all things fantasy. Yeah, so
nice.
Please do.
Awesome.
We're looking for a broader audience. We're a year in, and it's been a pretty big success so far for us based on expectations. But we're always looking for more people, and we like to answer questions. So the crossover audience is probably not huge, but if you like being a nerd for superheroes and being a nerd for football, I'm your guy.
Awesome. Eric, anchors away.
All right. So if you guys want to get at me, you can find me on Twitter at FinalE33. Yes, Finale 33. Or 33. I review the Titans show from the DC Universe app on BOF. I will have a new review up tomorrow, actually. I don't know when this is going to be released, but if you're wondering, it's the 19th of December. I should have the review of the Coriander show that just was on this past week. And look out for Straight Outta Gotham. I will be doing a podcast starting the beginning of next year with a fellow BOF contributor, Peter Vera. And yeah, come at me at Twitter and argue with me and all that fun stuff and get into our conversations. It'd be great.
Awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be fun. Maybe you'll have me on as a guest.
I think we will.
Maybe that could happen. I'd love that. Thanks
you have to rap to get on the show.
Oh, dude, I love.
Yes.
Oh,
I am.
I could do that. Oh,
I am. They say that it's tricky to rock a rhyme that's right on time.
Oh, Jesus.
Just
stop.
I've never found that to be the case.
We do a rhyme so bad that he asked you not to do it. That's really the path.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan and follow the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network, and of course the very beloved Robin Everyone Loves the Drake podcast. I'm also a part of at ELTD Podcast. And just keep checking back and get in touch with us, or send me a message on Twitter, or any of us, or Bill. Send Bill an email if you have questions, and we might do a Q&A show about Aquaman, because those are always fun to do after a DC movie comes out, and we haven't had one in a year, so that'll be fun. There's a lot of fun speculation we can do, and after Justice League, it was more like doom and gloom speculation, things like that. But I think 2019 is probably going to be a pretty bright year for DC on film, and it'll be. I think we're going to get back to the fun of it, because I think these films are going to start to do well. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Give him your Twitter handle, Ryan.
I did at SMB_Ryan. And that's where
it just wasn't as flashy as Finale 33. So
yes.
Yeah, I know. I didn't make as big of a splash as you did when you gave your.
It's not poetic.
Twitter handle.
Or as confusing, where I have to explain that my parents named me the only Garret I've ever met with one T, because they had to be individuals, leading to a lifetime of misspelled names.
Oh, that's amazing.
Or Lauer's tricky last name.
But that's the thing. Is like, what's misspelled? Is everybody else misspelling it, or are you just misspelling it?
Right.
Well, it's my name, so everybody else is pronouncing it wrong, even though it's spelled just like Lower. But whatever.
And with that wraps up today. That wraps up today's episode. For Eric, Garret, and Ryan, I'm Ryan. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
They tried to get rid of me, but from ocean to ocean, they gonna have to deal with me.
Hey now, you've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? Go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@batman-on-film.com. I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.
Time for the world. I live and they rap it. There's a difference, girl. Getting paid more than athletes, man. Life is sweet. GM on the status. Papa, watch.